What's up, guys? Doug Polk here. And today we got another podcast coming your way. We are joined by Bryan Micon, a man known in the poker scene as well as the cryptocurrency scene. Should be an interesting guest. We got at least a couple interesting stories for you, and also want to get his take on the current scene. Now, before we jump in and talk with him, I do want to let you know that next week we will be joined by guest Jason Moe, a controversial character for sure, well known from in poker and now cryptocurrency as well. So should be a good one. Make sure to be tuned in next Monday. And if you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. Bryan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Doug. Good to be here.
Yeah, this was a podcast that I wanted to do for a little while here. We were waiting to make sure that I could find a good spot for it. I'm back from vacation. I'm excited. And one of the things that I think is cool too is that I feel like the people that I relate the most to are the guys that were in poker and then kind of went into cryptocurrency. So, we have a similar-ish background in a lot of subjects. And I think that allows for like a pretty good discussion.
Yeah. I was just saying right before we went on that, hey, like we're into the same kind of stuff. Like the same kind of came up in the online poker scene back in the day. Back in my playing days, I used to see the WCG grinder at the top of the everything boards. It's good. Yeah,
I was definitely doing my fair share of grinding, but we never really crossed paths too much. I was more on the cash game side, and you were more playing tournaments and mixed games and whatnot.
Sure. I know that's weird. Doug and I, by the way, just so everybody knows, we really weren't friends back in then, even though we kind of did the same stuff. You don't know everybody. Seems like a guy that I would hang out with, though. He was like, we can get a meal.
If you lived in America, we probably could.
Yeah. Okay, that's true.
But let's go ahead and jump in and talk about your background a little bit for some of the guests that might not be as familiar with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Yeah. I was born in 1978. No, I'm just kidding.
It's a good year.
It was, I found online poker kind of like how a lot of people our age found online poker. I realize now there's a whole new generation that the 20-somethings at the World Series I've never heard of now. And that used to be me, man. It used to be me. But I found online poker and then just, started playing it because why would you want to go to work and do something else that you have to wake up early for, and why wouldn't you want to sleep in and make money and travel around and go to Vegas? And then crypto hit. I don't know if that's enough of the poker background that you were looking for, but I played online poker, and then cryptocurrency hit, and then it was just my life changed. I found Bitcoin in 2011, and I was reading about some hackings that had happened. Lulzsec hacked Sony. They defaced their website, and they leave this curious little string saying, hey, give us donations. And that just like set the bomb off in my head. Like, how the hell can they get donations? Surely the 3-letter agencies will be at their door if they try to get money. And I, start looking into like, what is this? It's Bitcoin. Oh, it's pseudonymous. So they might not, be able to track them down. And, and so that kind of sparked the interest. I researched it literally I think I've researched Bitcoin and now the greater crypto space every single day since I found it in 2011. Just fascinating. Can't stop playing with it, trying to build things for it, just everything. It's just too exciting.
One of the great things about it is that there's just so much information to learn. It's never really an end of information that you can gain. There's so many different currencies. There's so much going on. A lot of the world's smartest people are trying to develop these. There's just infinite information. How governments are responding, how communities are responding, the implementation, starting to see it more and more actually have utility in our day-to-day lives. And we might not really be at a point where it has a lot of utility compared to what fiat allows you to do today in terms of just living within society. But seeing the integration grow and the steps being taken to further that integration, it's fascinating. It's honestly amazing, frankly. But getting in 2011, that's really early. What was even the price of Bitcoin back then?
Oh, it was, I think I remember reading a Slashdot article. Remember, there's no media about it, where it says Bitcoin achieves dollar parity. Basically, nerdish way to say that Bitcoin reached $1 per Bitcoin. And I mean, like everything that happens now, it's weird. It's like deja vu. I remember the big crash was from $10 to $2. That was like the big crash. That's when people were like, oh yeah, I remember the crash. Like, yeah, I remember the crash from 10 to 85%, 80%. And now, and so, yeah, I mean, the big crash from the second big crash was like 1,000 to 100. And like, these are the big crashes that I remember. That's the one that gets you. And so they're like, oh, I see it now today. Facepalm. Oh, it's at 8,000. What am I going to do? I'm like, it's at 8,000. Wow. Like, oh, it might go to 5,000. Like, all right. It's like, I don't know. So yeah, it's been a long ride.
This is nothing new for Bitcoin swinging around. I definitely wasn't in quite so early. I think I first bought some Bitcoin in 2013, but I remember the run up with what was going on with China and all of the demand there, and then the government banning it. And it just, I remember over 2 or 3 weeks just being so pumped about the way it was going. Bitcoin's over 1,000. We're doing this. It was at 150 earlier in 2013, and then it crashed back all the way almost down to 150-ish or so over the course of the few months after that. Yeah, people seem to have a short-term memory in cryptocurrency. And part of it is because I think so many new faces, so many new people have joined into the fray that a lot of them just weren't around back in those days. I think a lot of the people who got involved in cryptocurrency, let's just say from 2014 realistically to December of 2017, or let's say October of 2017, if you got into cryptocurrency in that space, you made money, right? Even still after this crash, you've made money unless you held a few specific currencies. Shout out to BitConnect, but you made money over that period of time. So I think a lot of the new generation of people, and it's a weird thing to say generation when we're talking about 3 years, but the new wave of people who've entered cryptocurrency, a lot of them haven't been around to witness these crashes in the past. And so I think that's part of why we saw a lot of people lose their shit a little bit when we saw Bitcoin go from about $20,000 a Bitcoin all the way down to, I think at lowest around 6,000, maybe slightly under that. And so it's definitely good for people to try and keep some perspective on, this is not the first time this has happened to Bitcoin. I'm sorry, guys. It's not going to be the last time this happens to Bitcoin. And part of understanding, Bitcoin is the volatility that comes with it.
I completely agree. This is a new asset class, and humans like to relate something that they don't understand to something that they do understand. They say, Bitcoin is like a share of stock. Nope. No, it's not. Not at all. You are not buying anything. It's not a company. That's not it. But they see stocks go up and down, and some of them can be volatile. They see Bitcoin be volatile. They want to relate that in their head. It's wrong. And because it's a new asset class, we don't know. Crazy things will happen. Expect volatility. Correct. It's probably not the last time. It's it's definitely not the first time. It's new. It will be volatile. You can expect the unexpected. My cousin says every day in crypto could be the craziest day in crypto. Every single new day, every time you wake up, it could be something crazier than yesterday.
That basically happened 2 days ago, 3 or 4 days ago. Time flies. I woke up and I checked the price of Bitcoin. We're up 1,000, and it just all happened within 1 hour. There was a 1 hour surge that brought the price from 7,000-ish per Bitcoin up to 8,000. That can happen.
I saw it. I saw it yesterday. I was watching live. I was playing around, and I saw like a kind of an insta flash crash yesterday. I think it was from 8,400 to 8,100 or so, where it's just like red candles everywhere and immediately. And I can't help but wonder, like, I'm not really a trader. I just kind of a long-term believer. And I always wonder, like, who did it? Did somebody like fat finger a button? Did somebody really say that they're going to do it? Did somebody short something on BitMEX? And then they're like, you know what? I'm going to LOL like 5 different markets right now. And then I'm going to cash the contracts and I'm going to see what happens. I don't know. Who knows? It's just a worldwide supply demand thing that determines the price. So anybody could be doing anything. Who knows why it happened?
What are your thoughts on that front? Because one of the things that we've seen in the stock market, again, not the same as Bitcoin, but one of the things that we saw in the stock market, particularly in the 80s and 90s, You think of the movie The Wolf of Wall Street.
Sure.
And we saw a lot of shady practices across the board, a lot of very predatory practices where, essentially the noob's money was just burned so that experts with lots of capital could make moves. And ultimately, we've seen the government step in to create some degree of protection from people. What are your thoughts on just how Wild West it is in cryptocurrency? Because you simply can't prevent a lot of these things from happening. There really aren't rules on a lot of what you can and can't do. I think back to December when Coinbase was going to announce the Bitcoin Cash edition, right? And just the way that whole thing went down the day before, the price is surging. That they're trading insider information here because people know that it's going to be added. And I mean, rightly so. If you knew that Coinbase was going to add Bitcoin Cash the day before, that would be a pretty good day to pick up some Bitcoin Cash. What are your thoughts on how we can try to protect people? And really, is that even possible when it comes to crypto?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really big on relying on the government to protect you. The government's basically done nothing but just cause me endless headache. It took your job too. Took a few of my jobs. Took, back in the online poker days, just made it illegal one day. I mean, that's not protecting anybody. These are adults that, want to do something with their own money. And so when it comes to crypto protections from the government, it's only regulation is looked at as a bad thing in general in the crypto space. I don't think that it's Antop, one of the best guys to read about Bitcoin. He said it was like the regulators were like dinosaurs braying at the incoming meteor. And I echo those thoughts in that regulation will be heavy-handed. You've seen what's happened in New York already. You have to get a bit license. It's not something that crypto guys, at least the crypto guys that I hang out with, want. And it will be largely negative. I'll bet if you need protection, don't enter the crypto space right now. You talk about the Bitcoin Cash run up on Coinbase. Bad look for Coinbase, of course. Is insider trading really a crime in an unregulated, industry like that, in an unregulated currency that doesn't have regulations in most places? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a government official. I don't think like that. But yeah, bad look for Coinbase for sure. Do people need protection against that? I don't really know. I can't really answer that. It is definitely the Wild West. You said it best. This is no limit currency. It's only determined by worldwide supply demand. Anybody can affect it. And, it's the new asset class, new world, new rules,
Yeah, and that's one of the things that's risky about it when you're trying to, long positions or short positions or day trade. I'm sure that there's some degree of technical analysis that can be applied to make money. I'm a skeptic as to what degree it's possible. You're not a skeptic?
No, I mean, I don't think the TA guys are really, I don't believe in TA, I guess is the best way to say it. Maybe it's not that I don't believe in it. Maybe it's that I just don't know enough about it and don't care to know enough about it. I'm not really concerned with an intraday swing, with an intra-week swing of crypto prices. And that's, I think, one of the worst issues that crypto faces today is that everybody's concerned with the price. The game has become, it's almost like, hey, we have crack for rich people here. Go ahead and smoke it up. Pass it around. But that's not what the old school crypto guys got into it. My circle of friends in the crypto space are generally the old school. And we got into it with this, I guess if you have to label it, it's kind of a libertarian leaning thing of you want to debase the US dollar. You don't want to transact in US dollars. Maybe you think US dollars fund wars and, bomb people with drones. Maybe you just don't want to, you just want a more fair deflationary currency, and you don't want to use an inflationary currency as the world standard. We got into it to bank the unbanked, make remittance fast and cheap instead of Western Union $4.99 to send $50. Who the hell's paying Western Union $4.99 to send $50? Not you, not me. It's the working poor. And to tax the working poor 10% to send money back to their families just to me is like, that should be a punishable offense. That's a crime to me to try to tax that part of society. And when crypto, the old school crypto guys, we're, most of us and almost all of us were kind of on the same page. You're thinking like, okay, we're going to bring crypto. We're going to work really hard to make it transactionally relevant. And then people that want to work and send the money back to their families are going to do so fast and cheap, and in a deflationary way. So if they want to save, they're going to make money. Now, if you save US dollars, you're losing money. You just lose money. You lose 1% or 2% every year if you save USDs. And we were going to, we thought that levels the playing field worldwide. And now the discussion is all about, Doug, give me the latest ICO shitcoin that's going to make me more US dollars. I want to just do something fast. I don't want to work for it. I don't want to do anything, but I want more money. I want more US dollars because they buy Lambos and stuff. So that's what it is today. And it's kind of sickening to me.
I think that's a gross and unfair mischaracterization of Western Union. You're forgetting a large base of their customers, which are Nigerian scammers. And I think that they should get at least some mention here, Micon, at least some mention. No, but you bring a good point. And there's definitely been a change overall in the way that people view it today versus the way that they viewed it a few years ago. I actually didn't view it as much as a long-term, this is going to make me a lot of money investment. I viewed it more as, first off, the flexibility that it offered. And also, I would use Bitcoins to make money elsewhere. I'd use my Bitcoin to make more Bitcoin. So it ended up being a nice bonus that the currency just blasted off over the course of that time. But again, it was more of a focus on the actual utility of the coins over just let's get rich right now. That mindset wasn't rampant as it is today. And I think that the major cause of that is ICOs or ICOs. I think that the ICO market, people look at what happened with Ethereum and they want to be in on the next Ethereum or maybe even the next Bitcoin. It's a little bit different, obviously, but the same general idea. They want to be part of the next currency at a small market cap that runs up, gets worldwide acceptance, and dominates a certain area of the market. And now that approach is something that a lot of people are extremely interested in. We still do see some people that are very traditionally invested, mainly the major currencies. But we also see a lot of newer people who are taking very aggressive stances, taking very aggressive positions in some of the new currencies and hoping that they're going to strike it rich, because we all saw what happened to the alt market from November to mid-January of last year. It was absolute madness.
Yeah. And I mean, when discussing crypto, the entire crypto space in the framework of prices, then yeah, ICOs there's a scam a minute. There's right now, Doug, I am financially, I'm so happy to join me at this time of my life right now. I mean, it's ridiculous. BitConnect was ridiculous. I mean, there's a scam a minute ICO. The space has definitely gone, to me, on a tangent that is just absolutely brutally dark. And I hope that we'll all get back to building on the chain that we like the most. I hope that everybody would stop arguing with the chain you don't like, unless it's an outright scam. If somebody sees BitConnect out there, the next iteration, and it'll be coming, I'm sure it's already there. I'm sure there's multiple iterations of it already there. You call it out, I think. I think you call out a scam like BitConnect. But when it's like the Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin Core discussion, I don't think that you need to spend every day memeing, negative meme.
I hope. Is that my internet?
Transactionally relevant.
Sorry, it lagged. I think it might be my internet. Just go for it. Jump back in.
I have a fiber connection out here in the middle of the ocean, by the way.
A fiber connection?
I have fiber into my house in the middle of the damn ocean. It's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant.
That's pretty amazing.
And yeah, it did flicker once in like almost a 1 year period, but it's no, it's
probably my end then. But can you jump back into what you were saying?
Tell me where I get on rants, Doug. I just have a rant gene in me, just like you started.
You were discussing.
Thank you for having me on. I haven't been able to rant to the internet in a really good format in a while.
No, you actually you can rant as much as you would like here. In fact, that's encouraged. As long as I can get a few words into it, that's completely encouraged. But you were discussing the focus on negativity versus the focus on positivity, and the memeing and the Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash, et cetera, type argument.
Yeah, no, we've seen it. I mean, we've been in a 3+ year now, just brutally, maybe 4 years. I don't even remember. It's this whole scaling debate. Block size 1 meg. Don't raise it or you'll blow up worldwide computers. No one will be able to handle the blockchain, the censorship resistance. It's like, it's so sickening. I'm so sick of it. Everybody's sick of it. And you still kind of have to have the debate because it's still relevant and there's no winner yet. And I think everybody most people, I see a lot of people spending their time negative memeing the other side instead of building something on the chain that they like the best. If you like Bitcoin, build on Bitcoin Core. If you like Bitcoin Cash, build on Bitcoin Cash. Yet the discussion every day isn't, hey, look what I built. Look at how my chain works. The discussion on a daily basis seems to be like, LOL, look what Core did. LOL, Roger Ver and Jihan. LOL. It's like, how can I make fun of the other side? Now the other side makes fun of the other side. Now you have a meme war, and that's fun, I guess. I guess it's fun to watch for a little while, but this is like dragged on way too long. And it's time to build. It's time to make it work. It's time to make apps that do things that people want to do in a decentralized, space. And it's time to actually use crypto now, I think.
So a couple things. For starters, as a comedian, I mean, I'm going to call myself essentially a comedian here. I do some informational stuff too, but I would base at least my cryptocurrency videos in the comedy genre. You need absurdity to make comedy. You need to have it. And so there's just so much absurd stuff happening all of the time that I just can't see myself not memeing and joking and doing a lot of that type of thing, because first off, I enjoy it. Second off, it is pretty funny. And third, we've got all kinds of great characters that we can make fun of here in the cryptocurrency space. And that's not to say that like I hate a lot of these people or even dislike a lot of these people. It's just about creating, enjoyable and entertaining content for people to watch. And I don't see really much of an issue with going for some jokes based on that. I do think that a bigger problem is just hating something because you're in the opposite camp, which is a little bit of a different thing than just being able to laugh at people on really both sides of really most of the debates going on. Once you're starting to be like, I hate these people because they're that side and we're this side, then that's where it starts to get a little bit more into a territory that you don't want to get. But I would actually say, Micon, I think this is a little bit of a bigger issue. I would say this isn't just within cryptocurrency. I see this, politics. You see this, you see this a lot of nationalism today compared to 10 or 20 years ago. Everyone's sort of taking a I'm me first type attitude and attacking their opponents much more viciously than we saw in a lot of years past. And I wonder if the culture a little bit of social media and the culture of kind of some of the politicians that we see today who have been successful is starting to shape that general philosophy.
Sure. It's all a meme war these days. And I guess we proved with the last election that you can elect a United States president with a very effective meme war. If you win the meme wars, you can elect the president. That's crazy. That's a new it's almost like Bitcoin. It's like we're in a new era. There's not a lot of data on it. And yeah, that happens. I agree with you. It's like build your echo chamber. Make the most the funniest meme. I like memes too. What do you mean? I like to mess around. My daughter can recite that BitConnect EDM remix that Dylan Locke did. I don't know if you're familiar, but she says yucky in front of BitConnect, so I know I've done good parenting. It's like yucky BitConnect.
That's amazing.
And so I mean, I like it. I get into it too. I just think within the crypto sphere, the multi-year meme war of core versus cash to me is just so incredibly distracting. And I can't help but wonder where, if we could have solved scaling a couple years ago, I just can't help but wonder where we would be, and solved with any method, a simple block size increase, layer 2 stuff that's really working and everybody can use it easily. and merchants adopt it quickly. Like if something happened, I mean, Bitcoin, John McAfee won't have to eat his dick. I mean, it would be there already. Like it would be, I don't know, just it would be it would already be like the standard for remittance and for those original things. But what happened, and now we have multiple chains to build on. And Monero might be, you're just like, all right, I don't want anybody, I want a privacy coin, and that's what I think will be transactionally relevant for remittance. Like whatever it is, whatever chain you like, I would encourage people to like build on it. Like stop thinking about the price. Start thinking like, okay, what cool apps? Why is this a massive speculative market? Because you might be able to do this, or this in the future with it. Like do one of those things. Choose your favorite one. For me at the beginning, I chose poker. That's what I knew about. And there's nothing to do with the Bitcoin when I got into it, relatively nothing. And so I'm like, okay, well, like, let's see who's making poker. Did somebody make poker for this yet? Oh, yes. Okay. Can I be on your team? I'll dress up in a funny velour suit and, promote it and give everybody that I know a Bitcoin, just a $5 Bitcoin, just anybody I know, just here, you have a Bitcoin, have a Bitcoin, have a Bitcoin, have a Bitcoin. Some people remember that. I got a lot of people started in this, Doug. I got a lot of the people in the poker world got their first taste either from me directly or because of the work that I was doing. I mean, there's a lot. There's the poker world. I wonder, while I'm on my soapbox here, you gave me a high horse. I'll put a high horse on a soapbox. And like, I think a lot of people got exposed to crypto because of me. And I'm a narcissist too, by the way. So this is, of course I think that I help the world and I just do everything. It's all because of me.
Nice to get that out of the way up front. I like it.
Yeah. Narcissistic tendencies. Because I recognize that I'm a narcissist, then I only have narcissistic tendencies. So isn't that, you just immediately downgrade yourself, which as a narcissist you love, because then you're a little bit better.
Wow. You have spent some time thinking about this.
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of time. A guy like me has a lot of time on his hands, Never really had a career, never had a career, just didn't have a big time sink. Now I got a kid though. So like, all the time's gone. Once you have a kid, you don't have a wife or a kid, do you, Doug? I can tell you look rested. You look like, you got your shit together. You got the fucking awesome little room there. Like this is my room. I got shit everywhere. I got, this is like, I always only get 1 or 2 rooms of the house. I never get, I can't ever make the house like how I really want,
It's almost
by the way, I love your, yeah, no, it's almost like you got a whole business around it. I love your poster with the pills as cryptos. That's amazing. I'm jelly. I want that. That's just,
I can send you
so
one.
brilliant.
It would be easy. After the show, I'll send you one.
All right. You just committed to a bigger number than you thought, but that's fine. I'll take it.
I'm aware, but let's go back and talk for a second here about something that you said. Build on the chain that you like. Yeah. How reasonable is that? Because most people are not able to do anything when it comes to actually building something or advancing the technology. I mean, I can't. There's no way I could do that. So what are the 97% of people who aren't developers supposed to do?
This is like if you went to American schools, maybe you think that. I can't do it. It's got to be somebody else. No, you can do it. You have massive resources, Doug, compared to your average human. And of course you can build something. You can pay a team, tell them, here's my idea, make this, and they will build it. And there's the world, most of the workers in the world will have to become knowledge workers over the next generation. You're not going to be able to be a coal miner anymore. That's just not going to be a job. There's going to be renewable sources for energy, and those renewable sources are going to need programmers. You're going to need to be able to tell machines what to do, tell computers how to interact with other computers, tell computers how to interact with humans. These are the jobs. And so we've seen a worldwide increase in the number of programmers, the number of DevOps guys, GUI people. You can build whatever you want. And it's not even as expensive as it sounds, probably. You don't need to raise $1.5 million or set aside $1.5 million and then open up an office. Now work is done on the internet, in Telegram groups. You find people to work for you on the internet for cryptocurrency if you want. And so anybody can pick up and build something if you have a small amount of disposable income, or can convince a developer to work for you for free. If they say, hey, I don't know if we're going to make money, but let's try this idea. And there's many, many ways to build. You don't need to be the guy code. And if you don't have any money and you have a little bit of time, learn how to code. Everybody can do that. People can do this. People think that you said 97%. I think that most people think like that. Most people think I can't do it and most people can't do it. That's totally wrong. You can absolutely build something.
I'm going to disagree, because what you're talking about involves having a lot of time and or some degree of disposable income. Most people in the world do not have either of those. And if you don't have either of those, you have a job or you have a family or you have responsibilities, then how are you going to be able to accomplish it? And also, you say have an idea. Okay, well, some people are idea people and can build businesses and can build whatever they want to do and can figure out projects that they want to build. But what are the people that can't? You know, I think one of the greatest lies that parents tell their kids is that you can do anything you want when you grow up. Totally not true. Most people suck. It's just factually, most people suck. And so thinking that they can achieve something like that is honestly almost unfair to them. I mean, look, there are a lot of people who are not going to be able to accomplish something. So that's kind of one thing. And then the other side is, you know, I think for someone like me, could I create something? Could I build something on a chain by hiring people? Yes. But I have a lot of things I'm already doing. I already have a couple of businesses. I already have, you know, a lot of content that I have to make. So it's not really feasible for me to do that. So I guess my question sort of remains, we don't agree on the percentage of people that can't, or we don't agree on the percentage of people who could do something conducive. What should the people who are not in a position to be able to build, what should they be doing? What approach should they be taking other than trying to talk about the things that they think are important?
I mean, the buying and holding your favorite chain. Certainly, I mean, you know, then you will benefit if people build on your favorite chain. That's something that they could do. And it's an interesting debate. I'm probably too heady with the anybody can build it, just start building it, learn how to code. It's yeah, it maybe reaches a little too far, but let's talk about the working poor, the bottom 30% that, like, you know, 40%, the $2 a day earners in India. That you're right. They can't acquire a computer and a C++ programming book or even Python just to get started. You're right. That's generally out of the question. It's try to find enough money to feed myself and my family every day. Then saving, like the beginnings of crypto, you know, in a deflationary currency, always theorized that you can save micro amounts, that you could make $2 a day and you save 3 cents a day. And then in a deflationary, you know, maybe it takes a generation, but then, you know, maybe your kids, maybe you'll save enough and then give your kids enough to go to college, like after 50 years of toiling away and awful, you know, terrible life. Then, I mean, if you save in a deflationary setting, then you will build wealth. You know, how much you save, how much your resources are, it's all going to be different for everybody. But saving the chain that you like, if it's almost dangerous to say that now because there's so many chains and so many scams. They're like, all right, my favorite chain is Tron. And then maybe like you poke your head out of the water 25 years later and your Tron is maybe the chain doesn't exist. I would say saving your favorite chain from like the big four, like a ETH, Bitcoin Cash, and Monero, maybe Zcash. But even then, maybe Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash might even be so polarized, like, oh, maybe there's only one winner. A basket of 5 currencies is what you could do if you can't build, is probably, I don't know, one guy might say.
So I have a question for you. This was an article that I saw about Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin. I think that when we saw the price run up for Bitcoin and a lot of the, you know, how slow transactions were, how expensive transactions were, Bitcoin had some real issues with scaling, especially during the run up in December into January. But we've seen the adoption of SegWit increase. We've seen, you know, more and more Lightning nodes up and running. And now I'm not sure if you looked at the Satoshi, the cost per megabyte for a transfer, but it's extremely low. Transfers are once again extremely cheap. And I saw an article that said, you know, one of the major advantages to Bitcoin Cash versus Bitcoin over that period of time was that transactions were cheap the entire time, cheap and quick the entire time. What role does Bitcoin Cash play as Bitcoin continues to solve these issues moving forward?
That's a great question. And it's important to realize why the transaction is cheap. Some people think that Jihan and Roger have a spam machine and at their whim light 100 million on fire to increase the core cost of per Satoshi per megabyte cost. They think that that's what they do. That's not what they do. I don't believe. This guy doesn't believe that that's what happens. As people use the network, the price goes up. When we were onboarding on the core chain back in the day, business after business, you remember Steam, that's one hell of a big business and like a perfect application for crypto. Maybe your 13-year-old doesn't have a checking account, but does want to play a $15 online game and does want to buy a game. And like, this is like a great app for crypto. I think this is one of like the first merchants that, every time a merchant starts taking crypto, I'm like, oh yeah, cool. Like sometimes it's a big one. Steam, when they started accepting crypto, I was like, wow, like that one hits me. That one hits me right here. I didn't really game very much. Started playing that Fortnite. I'm addicted like everybody else. Even though I'm not in the poker world, I still, whatever. I like the Fortnite. It's just amazing. My 5-year-old will sometimes ask to play it where I have to like WASD for her, but she kind of puts my hand on the mouse, screams at me to do things. It's fun. And not too violent, not too gory. I kind of love it. I love it. It's fun.
I like the tangent there. You really moved over. For what it's worth, I tried playing Fortnite. Although maybe if I played it on PC, I'd like it, but on console,
Doug.
I'm sorry.
A man of means like yourself playing Fortnite on a console.
I know.
Oh, join the master race. Are you kidding me? Like these gaming computers are brilliant now, and you can mine garlic coin with them, and it's just double duty.
Here's the thing, though. All my friends were playing on console, so I figured I'd join with them, but like I just couldn't do it, man. It's just too. It's like you can't shoot where you want. It's brutal. I'm more of a CS:GO guy myself, but
are you playing that on a console? I mean, come on.
No,
no, of course. Oh man, and these graphic cards you're buying, they can mine. Yeah, no, anyway. Okay, so Steam, Bitcoin Cash relevance with Bitcoin Core becoming more scalable right now. So you have Steam quit the Bitcoin Core network. You have them say, okay, transactions balloon to 40 and $50 per transaction. Doesn't make any more sense for my 13-year-old to purchase a $15 game with that kind of a fee. So they quit. And that's what happened to push the network fee down to where it is. More and more merchants quit. They said, oh, whoa. So, we made all this integration. We spent a lot of money on integration here. We spent a lot of time and a lot of coding to get this in. And then, okay, well, all of a sudden the fee can balloon to 40, $50. That's not something we want to, have to worry about in the future. It generates a lot of emails. It's headache we don't need. Just use your damn Visa card. Not many people were using it. And so they dump it. That happened network wide, where if you're selling coffee, if you're selling a small item, food, it no longer made sense. People stopped, the merchants quit. You lose so much juice doing that. Part of what we did from 2011 to 14 was we'd evangelize it around Vegas, just like the guy, there's a coin meetup in Vegas. And the goal was like, hey, let's get people to use this. Let's get restaurants to do a BitPay integration. Then we can use our crypto and buy it. And we'd all go to any place that we'd meet there every week and say, hey man, let's be the first people to do it. And now the opposite thing happened where merchants started leaving, and it's often misunderstood why Bitcoin Cash came into existence. Most people say it's going to enrich these people that are behind it. That's not why. The reason why it's such a big thing now, the reason why that maybe 20% would be a good just throw out their number of the original community, the unified community that now thinks Bitcoin Cash is the bee's knees. The reason why they do that is because they watched this. They saw the first couple years of the struggle to get crypto into relevance. And as it became more relevant, people started using it more. It made sense to raise the block size, I think, and to just keep accepting more and more transactions. And the Cash group drew their line in the sand yeah, SegWit is a nice like 30-40% increase if everybody would use it. Maybe it gets to be 2x. Not SegWit 2x. That was a bad
Yeah, that
bad
was
term.
confusing.
Maybe twice as big. The block size would be effectively twice as big. If you can get everybody on board. But the BCH guys just said, all right, hell no. Like, we need a crypto that will scale for real, that if we got a whole bunch of merchants all at once to use it, we're not going to, surely their screen will never say, pay me $40 to send the $15 to the game manufacturer, to the streaming game service. And that the people behind the major players behind it do not need more money. If they wanted to live comfortably, drink whatever they want, eat whatever they want, buy whatever house they want, sail around the world, they could do that now. But it's to me, the BCH group is a bunch of hardcore believers. That doesn't mean that I'm middle fingers to core myself. I think we're in a big unknown. It's a big unknown. Either chain, I think, could end up being the winner. Lightning has its issues. There's about $80,000 last I checked a couple days ago tied up in the Lightning Network. If this was the end-all scaling solution, boy, can you imagine how fast people would pile into it if it really worked and they really trusted it. 80,000 US worth in there now. It doesn't signal ultimate trust yet. Now, it's early. We have to see what happens. This may be the way to do it. I actually tried to set up some Lightning. I tried to play around with Lightning, and it's relatively complex. I don't know if you've done it yet. If you've tried to download the Lightning wallet, it's an add-on. I'll have to grab the other setup, but it's a little complex right now. It is early. I think it could work. SegWit is not a solution. SegWit is a band-aid that does allow for other tech to be built on top of it that may work. I personally don't get it. I don't understand why that was Core's. I just don't get it. You just raise the block size. You quickly try to figure out whether or not you can keep raising the block size. You quickly try to figure out whether layer 2 scaling solutions, you test them for a long time. And I don't know. So it pisses me off. I'm just angry, Doug.
All right, I can see you're angry. So I think a couple of things here. I think for starters, SegWit is a precursor because it allows for a malleability fix for off-chain secondary chain solutions like Lightning. So I don't think that SegWit was ever supposed to be, this is just going to solve all of our issues. I just think that it was the direction that the developers wanted to go. So I think that's a safe thing to say.
Developers.
Sure.
The direction the developers wanted to go in an open source, where it's new territory. It is brand new territory. There's no board of directors. There's no duty to the shareholders. There's no CEO that says yes or no. We're going with this guy's or this guy's.
Let me finish a couple points here though. So that's the first thing, and it does help as people adopt it. I mean, part of the issue was that when SegWit first came out, no one was really using SegWit addresses, and so we're seeing more and more people add it, which will help the problem. And then as far as Lightning goes, I think we're seeing this already have some pretty solid effects on the overall network. First off, $80,000 is not a particularly massive sum. I don't know exactly where you're pulling that from or what happened for that to be lost. But we're talking about 10 Bitcoin. I don't think that's a huge.
It's not lost. That's just tied up in the Lightning Network. Just so we're clear.
Okay, so it's tied. So
you have to essentially post money to use the Lightning Network.
Right. Yeah. And then you have to have like the same chain as someone else that's part. I'm not extremely up to date on how Lightning works specifically, but my main point here would be we've seen prices for transactions drop considerably. We've seen speed increase across the board. Bitcoin does have the best development team. It has certainly the largest development team, and a lot of the original people are still, the majority are still pro Bitcoin versus Bitcoin Cash. But I kind of just want to go back to the original question, which was what is the use case for Bitcoin Cash if Bitcoin has cheap, fast transactions? Where does that leave Bitcoin Cash?
Oh, in a situation where Bitcoin Core develops a legit scaling solution that's really easy to use and super cheap, then I would have to imagine that's going to marginalize the BCH chain. And that's why I don't think there's a clear winner. Like I'm not on a side. I don't know. I guess I have ideas. I guess I'm mad at the developers for capping the block size at a meg. I don't think that was ever what Satoshi wanted to do. And I just think it was the wrong move. But that doesn't mean that the Bitcoin core chain might end up being the winning chain in 10, 15, 25 years from now. And maybe Bitcoin Cash is a footnote, and maybe it goes the other way. Maybe Bitcoin Cash is the relevant chain, and then Bitcoin Core was sort of the original. It's on the Mount Rushmore as the first coin on the Mount Coinmore, and it just came first. But I mean, it's BCH definitely loses relevance, I think, if Core becomes fast, cheap, and reliable. I mean, it just would, I think, by its nature. But I don't think that just the way that it's lining up now. Have you seen Calvin Ayre tweeting relentlessly about BCH? Have you seen, like, there's a few big players that are like determined, like Roger Ver, of course. I mean, I met Roger in 2011, 12-ish. And I remember, like, just you guys have seen it. It doesn't need to be repeated. You guys see the passion behind that, the do every single conference, read everything about crypto, invest in everything crypto, just all of it. I don't understand how he goes at that pace. I really don't. And like the Jihan too has built a massive multi-billion-dollar empire surrounding ASIC mining, in essence. And the players behind BCH are going to do, like Roger's doing now what he did the first 4 or 5 years. Evangelizing, getting businesses on board, investing in businesses to get them on board. He's not the only one. He's got there's a bunch of other people in that BCH club that I think are going to make it relevant. I think that they're just going to make that chain relevant. They're doing the building part in a massive way on that chain. Bitcoin, of course, has everybody else that's not, that's not them. That's doing that. And it's not just them. I don't know. The BCH is so often characterized as Roger Jihan, and Calvin looks like he's getting his name in there too, and Craig Wright, of course, and big question mark. I have no idea. I don't know. Right. It's super polarizing. It hurts my head to think about it. I don't think it really matters. I don't know. He either is or he isn't. If he is, holy crap. If he isn't, LOL. Like I don't know.
A few things. For starters, just like some of the people commenting right now in the chat. This is a podcast. This isn't a debate. I don't bring on guests to debate them. We're just trying to get people on to share their views. I'll ask questions that I feel like are relevant. We've had a long string of Bitcoin supporters. It's actually good to get some Bitcoin Cash perspective. I'd love to get some Ethereum perspective. We're going to have a wide variety of guests because I think it's important to understand everyone's positions. And I'll always try to ask the questions that I feel like are relevant, but there are different positions out there. And so it's important to understand what they are. And honestly, like having an open mind will help you figure out more specifically what you like and don't like based on actual facts and information. So that's the first thing. Second thing, dude, Craig Wright is super LOL. That guy is clearly not Satoshi. He said a ton of bullshit all over the place. Vitalik recently called him out. The guy is clearly lying. And I think it's honestly a bit of a detriment to Bitcoin Cash for some of their, Roger Ver, for example, being related to him in whatever capacity. That I think that's harmful to Bitcoin Cash because Craig Wright is a fraud.
I agree. It looks that way. I completely agree. It looks like Craig Wright is a fraud. If someone's just consuming the general crypto feeds, what other decision could you draw? I have some other information that that I can't verify. So I don't know. That just compels me to keep an open mind on that, which I know sounds ridiculous. And that's why I don't even like to think about it or consider it in any real decision, just because I don't think it really matters. If crypto is going to succeed, if you're going to build on the chain that you like, what does it matter if Craig Wright's Satoshi or not? Network exists, chains are out there. Trading is happening, building is happening. But I agree, Bitcoin Cash has an image issue. I don't think it's marketed very well. I think it's just kind of shoot from the hip marketing, which is this is early. We're so early in crypto. Everybody thinks they missed the boat because of the discussions always on price. Why didn't I get in at $10 when now it's thousands? and I got in at 17K and 5K. But I mean, it's marketed so bad, and it's indicative of early internet stuff. It does remind me of early internet companies, pets.com on the Super Bowl kind of stuff, just like places where everyone's trying to find their voice. They try on, it's like my 5-year-old. She hears something, she tries it on for herself. And just that seems to be what's happening. I don't really like I don't like people being the front man for you. I mean, you have to have it's good to have a spokesperson, a front man, someone to explain it. I don't like flashy, polarizing, that front man being super flashy and super polarizing. I don't like that. And I agree that aligning with, even Craig Wright is super polarizing right now. And it's probably like 90-10 in favor of hate, I would say. You have maybe 5% loving, maybe 95% hate. There's it's
why can't, if he's Satoshi, why can't he prove it?
Yeah, no. And I mean, if he is Satoshi, he could prove it, but won't. And that makes it this, why would anybody do that? And I don't have any good answer for that. Again, I don't really care that much. It doesn't really bother me. Right. Massive scammer.
He's not Satoshi.
Yeah. No.
Well,
he was in super early. That part is almost guaranteed. Yeah. That he's in super early, like 09 early. That's a really short list. Okay. I mean, the original listservs that in the crypto community, not meaning cryptocurrency, but just cryptography community, is where this all spawned from. And there's only a few hundred active members, only really 50 to 75 people that started to mess with it. It's such a short list. And he was probably on that short list. Right. I don't know.
So I guess the reason that people care is because, it's such a strong thing to say, because probably the biggest question, I think, in cryptocurrency is, who's Satoshi? I think that's the number one question, I would say, of like what people would love to know, what they want to know. And so, because it's kind of like the guy who started the whole thing, right? If Satoshi was or is here, people knew who it was, and it was really Satoshi, that guy would have a cult following. I mean, look at how Vitalik is revered for Ethereum, and it'd be way bigger than that, because this is the guy that started the whole genre. This is the guy that started everything. So I think people find it really insulting that someone is trying to claim to be without being able to prove, and it's just basically like, believe me. I mean, it's kind of like religion-ish almost. Like, guys, I'm God, but you have to believe me. Like,
dude, the entire crypto space, Doug, has gotten so religion-ish. I detest religion in general. And to watch it absolutely form the same kind of cultish status around your favorite one is just, it does echo characteristics of religion hugely. Are you familiar with Gavin Andresen?
No.
One of the original Bitcoin Core maintainer, the one that Satoshi handed the project off to. Gavin Andresen, .ninja, his personal blog. He meets Craig Wright, 2016. He writes a blog post. I am convinced Craig Wright is Satoshi. All the signing, Craig Wright then can't sign the Genesis block and can't prove it to the world. Releases some amateurish, wrong proof, in essence. And whole world laughs at him. Gavin leaves up the post to this day. You can check it on his site. I believe Craig Wright's Satoshi. Says that he proved something, to him. Now, whether Craig Wright tricked Gavin and signed a Genesis block, made him think that he signed the Genesis block or something, whether he actually did and said, hey, you know what, Gavin? I'm going to do an LOL media circus around this where everyone's going to laugh at me. By the way, I am Satoshi here. I'm going to prove it. Now I'm going to go do this. I mean, it could, I'm just telling you the things that run through my head. I don't really have a strong opinion on this. It's so polarized that it has to be yes or no. And I can't figure it out. I don't have definitive proof myself. I have this Gavin piece of information. I have the mountain of evidence that looks like he's a scammer. And again, I don't think it's relevant, but it is a massive question mark. I would love to know the answer like everybody else.
I mean,
I'd love definitive proof.
it's like almost by definition relevant because he's the biggest person claiming to be Satoshi, and if he was, the impact on the community would be sizable. So it is almost by definition relevant. But we can move on to some other topics because I think there's not really too much to say here.
We can beat that horse all till it's further dead.
We absolutely could. Let's go back and talk a little bit about we actually didn't really get through your whole background. We immediately launched into a variety of topics here. But why don't you talk a little bit about Seals with Clubs? Yeah,
it's kind of a bittersweet memory. It's really fun. It was like the most fun project ever. And yeah, I mean, it's almost like the fallout was almost just worth it because it was just so hilarious, even though it was also PTSD inducing. I don't know if you've ever had a gun pointed at you, let alone like 5 guns pointed at you when your 2-year-old's asleep with your wife in the middle of the morning and your door blows up. But let me tell you, that fucks with you, Doug. That will fuck with a guy in the dreams and it was crazy. And the beginning was really, I don't know, I guess super innocent in that you find something that is just like the most amazing idea you've ever seen. Crypto, Bitcoin at the time. You can't really call it crypto when I found it. It was just Bitcoin and Namecoin and soon Litecoin. But you find Bitcoin and the thing that I had been doing, I'd like to make, podcasts. I did this game on a smaller level back in the day. I like to talk to the internet. And you find Bitcoin, poker. So, you decide to get involved with, there was a few other ones that were kind of not really legitimate, but the first legitimate poker site was Seals with Clubs. And it was just super exciting. And, I really liked I was the marketing guy. I know that when my door blew up and they raided my house, it's early, it's 2015. So I kind of think that the feds, or not the feds, but the Nevada state law enforcement, I think that they thought they were going to like find a machine, just like a slot machine, just spitting out Bitcoins, like it would be plink, 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 plink. I think that that's what they thought. And like, there would be like a monkey dealing and like a hamster turning a wheel and like, it would all work. And then they're like, okay, get a bucket. Let's take all these Bitcoins, just get them as they fall out. And then, now shut it down, turn the switch off. All right, we're done here, take them all away. And like, obviously they just find, that's not what they found. Like I'm not the creator of it and I didn't make it. I marketed it and, for a small group. And, it became really popular because it solves a problem. As well as I do, how many times your American online poker landscape has drastically changed due to the heavy-handed government coming in and just slapping something down when they're not taking a big enough rake on it. The government's like, oh, we're not getting a big rake off this. Might as well just time for some heavy-handed legislation. Let's fuck this all up. And so as that keeps happening to American players and in many other places around the world, the solution of Bitcoin was, even 2011, it's trades at $1, trades at $10. Okay. You can still play poker with it. You don't need to, I read about the cost to process a deposit or withdraw was reaching 20 to 30% for some of the traditional fiat online poker providers back in the post UIGEA, post Black Friday scenarios. So like the people that were operating in fiat currency were sometimes incurring 20 and 30% fees for doing so.
With which withdrawal method?
This was an industry metric, and I think it was based on like, the Western Union withdrawal thing that we saw for a little while. And I know there were various other methods, the checks that people were getting back in that time, if I recall. And it was just costing them money. And you can kind of see why that would be. They would need to get the money to somewhere that would then send an individual amount to somebody, and I guess when they seized the money in 2011, they were working with, I think it was 40, 60, it was like $100 million kind of range. Like it was that much was ready to be, was essentially cashed out by thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of players. and that needed to be sent, that's depositable in American banks. And I guess that was a pretty big deal. I mean, I guess that was hard to do and cost a lot of money. And so Bitcoin solves that. Bitcoin solved the transaction, the transaction processing side of that just instantly. It's just done. And that idea was like super, super, super exciting to me because we had dealt with that for so long. You remember this, Doug. You click cash out, ultimate bet days, absolute poker days, cash out, then question mark. Will I get paid? I won at poker. That was hard. Now will I get paid? And
all right. So
how long did you wait? How long do you remember waiting?
I remember
months and months.
To be totally honest with you, so I'm gonna divide this up into pre-Black Friday and post-Black Friday. Pre-Black Friday payments were quick. There weren't much issues with it. Sure. Post-Black Friday, it became a lot more difficult. The sites that were allowing U.S. customers still were extremely difficult. The sites that didn't were a lot more inquisitive as to what you were doing, where you were, what was going on. But I would say on the major networks, on the top 3 to 5 networks, I never really had too much of a problem with payments other than the money that I had stuck on Full Tilt Poker after Black Friday.
Okay. I remember, maybe I'm just like, I was always in the kiddie game, but like, I remember like getting a cash out was just like, it was like this 3-week to 1 month. Like, I wonder if it's going to come this time. I wonder. And I remember like, it was just, and then I don't know, you remember the UB debacle and all of a sudden payments come slower and slower and slower and slower. Remember Lock Poker? Remember that debacle? I never really played big on there.
Yeah.
It just becomes like, now it got to a hilarious 3 months, now 6 months. Now, I got a cash out from 8.5 months ago. You're like, all right, this isn't how poker's played.
See, I played on a lot of those sites, but I tried to, maintain as low of balances as possible because I just felt that it was so ambiguous what was going to happen. Also, money bookers really solved a lot of these things. I mean, Bitcoin was good too. Don't get me wrong. Like ACR implemented Bitcoin, I think, on the early side. Compared to, I mean, most sites don't even have Bitcoin as a deposit option, but yeah, money bookers I think solved a lot of these issues as far as to the speed. Maybe it helped that I was playing higher stakes, and so I was getting support quicker or whatever was going on. But okay, so to kind of just take that to the side, I think cryptocurrency, or specifically Bitcoin, as a way to facilitate payments makes a ton of sense for online poker. I'm completely behind that. It makes sense. It's
Sports
cheaper.
Betting, any online gambling
makes sense. But I feel like right now there are too many projects, too many companies capitalizing on what's going on with ICOs to create their own token for no fucking reason other than it's going to make us money.
Sure.
And then they try and say that a lot of these things that you need, provably fair gaming for one, or your transactions being processed for another, aren't really huge issues at the moment. I mean, the first one's not an issue at all. And then the second one, I question what percentage of payments have not been paid out. If you look at the big networks, or even if you look at the total amount of payouts by volume, how many online poker payouts have not been processed? And it's a pretty small number. I mean, it's something. I mean, I'm not saying that it's zero, but it's under 1% for sure, because the big operators, they have to pay out or they wouldn't be in business. So I'm for Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies as payment, but I'm not really pro what's happening right now with all these different sites popping up, trying to use cryptocurrency. What are your thoughts?
Are you speaking about the newest iterations of poker sites that are ICOing, or the general global phenomenon of ICO money grab time that we're in now?
Well, there's a lot of both going on, but I'm specifically talking about poker sites based around using their own token.
Yeah, and I really don't play much poker anymore. I'm not really into poker anymore. I mean, I play a little, but I'm not much, and very rarely in a month. But I see it hits my feed, my focus is really crypto, but I can't help but ignore anything that happens, poker crypto. And I don't think the poker sites that have made their own coin to play for, I think are engaged in the same fallacy that some of these other ICOs are, where when you just it doesn't need to be a new currency. I question this. I found myself thinking about it too. Like, should poker be its own currency? Is that like, no? And then I come to the conclusion of no, because when you go into Bellagio or Aria and say, hey, I want to play poker, and then they give you a chip, that made people think, the ICO profiteers think, oh, you mean like a token, instead of like a digital chip, like a token. But like that chip at Aria isn't like its own Aria currency. In some ways it is, but it's not really. It's a representative of the currency you want, in this case, US dollars. So you get a chip, and then they sort of blurred that thought of the chip is the token. Now they do a token sale. Now you play for the chip on the room. And then you just take the chip when you're done and go to an exchange or whatever, and then get the currency you really want. I think that perverts the entire system. I can't, and I'm not really, I haven't thought deeply enough about crypto poker in a long time to really drill this down. But my initial reaction, my initial thought is that no, that shouldn't be its own currency. Again, the same fallacy that many of these ICOs make of like, okay, we have this idea. First, we need to reinvent money again. It's like, no. We already invented money. We have money. Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, Monero. These are all good money. Ethereum. These are good money to me. To me, this is good money that was invented. Then when you play a game like online gambling, be it sports, be it poker, this dice thing I don't understand, that all these young millennial kids like to gamble. I don't understand dice. I don't get it. It's not fun for me. And I think you're supposed to play that for the money that you like for one of the big four, the big five currencies. I don't think it's supposed to be its own token. I think most of it's a money grab, like most ICOs. That's what I think. And I guess we're running it now. I guess we're running it in the marketplace to see if that, we're gonna see if poker should, if a poker room should issue a token, and then it has magic value. And we'll see if that actually works. I don't think it's going to, though. I don't think that's the right model.
I have a question. Why do you call it Bitcoin Core? Because this is something that I see from a lot of the Bitcoin Cash community that doesn't really make much sense to me. Its name is Bitcoin, and I feel like when the Bitcoin Cash community says Bitcoin Core, it's to make them equal. And I'm not really here to say like, what should or shouldn't have happened, but the majority of the community sided with Bitcoin, and it still is called Bitcoin today. And then a subsection of that community, like 20% or whatever you think is roughly accurate, has sided with Bitcoin Cash. And I don't really understand why. I feel like it's kind of almost like insulting to Bitcoin, because you're trying to be like, they're the same as Bitcoin Core and Bitcoin Cash, but it's not. It's Bitcoin. Everyone calls it Bitcoin. So why do you call it Bitcoin Core?
I would say that, just to be more specific, Cash and Bitcoin would be fine. I would be fine just calling it Bitcoin. I'm a what's in a name kind of guy. Like, it just, I mean, maybe I'd pick that up. Been hanging out with some of the Bitcoin Cash guys a little bit. They're just they come to the next island over here sometimes. But I mean, I may have picked that up from them, and it's not something that I don't mean to do it to say, I'm not meaning to do it for any of those marketing reasons. It's more just to Satoshi Dice, for instance, they flipped to Bitcoin Cash when the core fee, they flipped to Bitcoin Cash when the Bitcoin fee went higher. I don't even know if that sounds more confusing or less confusing, but I understand what you mean. I completely agree with what you mean too. It's known as Bitcoin. By the way, I hate some people. I'm sure there's a chat saying, "Oh, it's a Bitcoin Cash guy," but I hate saying Bitcoin Cash is Bitcoin. I think that's ridiculous. I told Roger, I'm like, don't say that. That pisses me off. Just please stop saying that, Roger. And the reason why is because it's super confusing to new users. I don't want to confuse new users. I would like to tell new users exactly how it is. I want to factually how it is. And you're probably right that like when you look up Bitcoin on any exchange, on CoinMarketCap, on any of the news sites, BTC, we know which chain we're talking about when we just say Bitcoin. I completely agree with that. Sometimes if I slip in a core, it's not an aggressive, it's not a negative meme war. I promise. It's
I actually I had almost the reverse thing happen in this podcast. I almost called it Bcash. I was like, no, we're not gonna send the conversation that direction.
I don't care. I'm really a what's in a name. I don't really care. If somebody wants to call it Bcash, who the hell cares? I don't care. I mean, whatever. If you hate the chain, I get it. You hate the chain, no problems. Make fun of it, do whatever you want to do. Like, ignore it. Don't build on it. I would just encourage like the haters of certain chains to do the one you like. Like, I hope yours wins. Like, I hope any crypto wins. I hope crypto becomes more transactionally relevant. I hope we use it in our day-to-day lives.
Well, I think we're well on the path to get there on that front. What's it like actually hanging out with Roger Ver? Because he's definitely one of the more controversial characters. And where are you based out of as well?
I'm in the Caribbean. I'm in Antigua right now, and I've been between here and St. Kitts a lot this year. And he's a cool guy, man. I mean, like, he's like, I know, I get it. I totally understand the people that hate him. I get it. I mean, if I want badly, I want to be his coach. I want to just coach him. I want to be like, all right, listen, hit this. Cause he's super passionate. Obviously, whether you love him or hate him, you agree that he's super passionate.
There's no way anyone can disagree that he's not super passionate. Yeah. I mean, it's always clear.
I guess I'm privy to a lot more information than most people. So when I see people say Roger's just trying to get rich with this whole Bitcoin Cash thing, I'm like, nope, wrong, totally wrong. And in 2011, or early 2012, Money 2020 conference, Vegas. Me, Roger Ver, Eric Voorhees, and Charlie Shrem, we had talked online on Bitcoin Talk, which was very small then. And they're all coming to Vegas. I live in Vegas, so I'm like, holy shit, let's talk for I'd like to meet you guys in person. It's kind of same kind of, I guess libertarian leaning, kind of ideas about Bitcoin and the world in general. And so, I'm involved in the poker site at that time. Charlie Shrem's in BitConnect. I didn't even know what Roger was doing, but it turns out he was involved in everything, absolutely everything that was about to be created. And Eric Voorhees was doing Satoshi Dice at the time. And so we all meet in Vegas. And it was like, the one thing that I took away from Roger, which was your question, was that like, man, this guy is a believer. This guy wants this badly, and for more political reasons than I wanted it. It solved a direct problem for me. Hey, my gambling online, it's always getting destroyed by the government. Look, this can fix it. And then, Roger's like, the government's destroying things, and like, this fixes the government. And I'm like, wow, that is one level up. That is not what I was thinking. I was just kind of a greedy gambler, one greedy gambler here. And that passion is, I watched it for 4 or 5 years on the core chain and just to say Bitcoin on Bitcoin. And he evangelized it as hard as he could, invested in everything that he could get his hands on that, that looked good. And did the road show like you see. He's on every he's on this podcast. He's been on every show, does every conference possible, every major conference, that he can go to. And it's not out of this blind greed for more money. It's because he truly believes that this is world-changing tech. This is financially playing field leveling tech. This helps humanity, not himself, not, the elite. This helps he believes this helps humanity. I agree with that. And while we may not take the exact same stances, like that initial 2011 mindset absolutely still exists. And I think the way that he comes across on certain things, I think needs to be polished. You are the face of Bitcoin Cash now. And it's a multi-billion-dollar entity. And it does swing, prices and favors do swing on his words. And I think it needs to be more polished. I think but you ask what he's like. Super passionate guy that wants to change the world for the better. And you may not agree with how he's doing it. You may think he's going about it the wrong way, but that's his reason. That's what he's trying to do.
I think that and this is someone with not much technical expertise on the subject, but it seems like increasing block size is a reasonable way to scale. I've not seen any real short-term problems with that, except for long-term. Can you really indefinitely increase block size? I've heard some convincing arguments that you can't do that. But from like a technical standpoint, I'm not really, I have nothing like inherently bad to say about Bitcoin Cash. I do like what Bitcoin is doing, and it seems like it is working. And I'm a fan of the development community that is, furthering Bitcoin. But I feel like at least for Roger, some of the things that he does really do set a negative tone for the Bitcoin Cash community. Like some of the things that he says, it's like, dude, like you have to, when he made the comment about calling Bitcoin Cash Bcash is like calling a minority a slur. I honestly was like, is this guy for fucking real right now? Because does he realize how disrespectful that is to minorities? Does he realize how disrespectful that is to try and make his plight with that term the same? Moments like that are really bad for, yourself, but also for the kind of brand that you're representing.
I mean, I agree. I mean, these are the types of things that, I wish I could coach him on. I don't agree with, I don't think that's not a statement that's going to further your efforts. I mean, that's not, bad, marketing grade F for that particular statement. F, no credit given. Yeah, I mean, I agree. There's some cringeworthy things that he says, but it's also important to realize that he's on all these podcasts, all these shows, he's on everywhere. And you can always catch a bite that is going to be, you can always catch a sound bite that's awful. And, part of what, the way this is done in the real world, in the real media, is that these, before you go on, you have talking points. It's polished. The way that it's done in the crypto world more times than not is that it's unpolished. It's raw. It's kind of like what we're doing. It's just, you shoot. And, you're going to miss. You're going to say some weird things. You're going to flick off the camera. Here, I'll give you one just so you could, you're going to get that. How many times have you seen that?
Watch out. We might get a poster of you back here, man. You got to be careful.
And like you get the meme war because you grab a soundbite and you make it a meme war. And like, yeah, I mean, does Roger serve them up daily? Yes. He serves them up, I think the debate, if you want to further, for Roger to further his efforts, I would say like, hey, talk about what you're building, talk about how it's using, make it usable, I want to see a crypto economy pop up somewhere. I think it's going to happen in the Caribbean first, where you will get off the plane, you'll get into the cab, and then they're like, can I pay with Bitcoin? Can I pay with Bitcoin Cash? Can I pay with Ethereum? And they'll be like, yes. And then they'll have a QR code and you'll hit it and it'll go like easy. And then it'll just say, okay, it's done. The payment's done. Thank you for the ride. Then you'll go in a restaurant. You'll say, I'd like to eat. And they'd say, here's a QR code. And then you'll pay for it. And then you're like, wow, this is easy. I didn't have to carry any cash. It's all on my phone. If I need more, I can get some from my computer or call a friend or go to an exchange or something. And just, I want to see that work. I think that's what we need now, is to see it work for real. Forget the speculation. Fintech dApps on the blockchain with Cardano. Show me some fintech dApps. Let me use it. I want to use this stuff. And I think that's what needs to be done now.
What's your thought on this point? So, when we think about the deflationary aspects of Bitcoin Cash, any of the ones that set supply, I've heard some arguments that whenever you have a deflationary currency, it does not end up working as a currency because of hoarding, because it will increase in value over time. And so people do not want to let go of their money that's more valuable. What's the saying? There's some law here that I've forgotten. but people will use their less valuable money and hold their more valuable money. And one of the things that I saw when I added Bitcoin payments to Upswing Poker, my poker training website, we had a lot of demand to add it. A lot of people said, "Oh, well, I would buy, but no Bitcoin, so I can't." And so we're like, this is going to be a nice revenue stream. We're going to add Bitcoin in, and we're going to see what happens. We had Bitcoin in, people were excited, and then over the next year and a half or so, we did not really receive, a sizable portion of our transactions from Bitcoin. They'd like come in every now and then, but people weren't using Bitcoin. They were using fiat. They were using Visa. They were using these things. So it's interesting to me because when you talk about implementation, right? I want that too. I think everybody wants that. You want to get to a place where you could use whatever shitcoin you have to pay for your cab ride. That would be sweet, right? But
sure.
Is there kind of a problem in that people will want to hodl their more valuable currency and then use their fiat and thus not further the entire cryptocurrency community by not using cryptocurrency for transactions?
It's a good question. And I've read that same, I don't know the name of it. And
Gresham's Law. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. And thank you, chat. And I've read that. I've heard that. The way that at the beginning, we tried to convince a restaurant to take our crypto so we could pay in crypto when the little meetup went there, knowing full well we were losing huge value by doing so in hopes of onboarding more. So in some ways, that would be true if you're still in this fiat. If you I can't see it happening when somebody has, let's say someone's way overweight Bitcoin and they have the option to pay in Bitcoin or fiat. I mean, you might just pay in Bitcoins and then now your percentage goes down slightly and you get to more of a balanced approach. One random example. I don't think that Gresham's Law thing works when it's a full working crypto economy, when it's everybody's using crypto, when everybody's holding crypto, and then crypto becomes the norm for it becomes transactionally normal to use crypto. I don't think that there's going to be this big, okay, I'm not going to spend, I'm just going to hold, I'm not going to eat, I'm going to eat less because I want more Bitcoin. I think it just becomes sort of that normal, okay, I should save instead of spend if I want, to have more money later. If I want to save for a house, I can't eat avocado toast because then I can't have both because I'm a millennial. And if I want my kid to go to college, then, I can't, purchase dessert coffee in the morning when my crypto exchange is about to explode. That's a Mark Karpelis reference from a long time ago. But yeah, so I don't think it'll really affect it. I don't think that's really the thing. I think once it becomes normal, you'll just know if I spend, I'll have less. If I save, I'll have more. And if everybody's saving deflationary, then, I think that, I think it levels the playing field. And I don't think the Gresham's Law thing happens on a big scale. And again, I'm not an economist. I don't know. I'm one gambler that, turned crypto lover that, that just thinks it'll work. It's probably a weak statement. Somebody can meme that, say that I don't know what the hell I'm talking about now. And, I think people will spend. I think it'll work. I think people will spend. I don't think people will stop spending just because it's going to be worth more.
Maybe it works more as a larger portion of people's money is in cryptocurrency, then the spending increases. Because right now, I would still say that most of the people in cryptocurrency, if not, I'm sure there are some people that are in it for the tech, but I would say the vast majority are in it as an investment vehicle. I think that we're still pretty early. 10, 20 years from now, we will look back very differently at today's age than we do today. And so I think most people are still in it as an investment vehicle. And because of that, they're not really looking to spend it on any sort of large scale because they're thinking about the future. They're thinking about where will this be down the road. So maybe it just takes that the overall size of the market just has to be much larger before people are really trying to use crypto for day-to-day transactions. I could see maybe you know, the overall size increases somewhat drastically, then yeah, maybe more and more people do enter it planning to use it rather than just hold it.
You hit the nail on the head with that. Most people aren't using it. It's, you know, it's investment, it's gambling, like in a market setting right now. It's not, people aren't buying it to use it again at the beginning. And sort of goes back to what you said about why would Bitcoin Cash be relevant if Bitcoin regular can scale and just become relevant. Like if like, imagine if you're doing something like paying for a streaming service in one of the two chains, and like, let's say it just makes micro payments every, you know, hour from a wallet, and you know, then, you know, you're using it. Are you going to turn that off to save? Maybe you will. Maybe it's an expensive streaming service. Maybe it's that new VR porn that they have now, and it's just super expensive, and you're like, well, I kind of have to have it. And then you're like, all right, well, you know what, you know, deflationary currency, maybe I will turn that off.
Tough spot.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it will. I don't think it becomes, I think you're right. I don't think it becomes even a question that the market will tell us the answer to until crypto itself becomes more transactionally relevant on a daily basis.
Let's change gears here for a little bit. Let's talk about maybe some of the other coins that you're excited about that you like. What are your thoughts? Let's start off with the privacy coin genre. Do you hold any privacy coins?
You know, I don't really talk about what I hold, but I do talk about what I like. I like
same or
a friend asking for telling you for a friend that Monero is really cool. I just think, like, I do think Monero is really cool in many ways. I think it's sort of like when people first learned about Bitcoin in like a sort of a cursory overview, they're like, oh, it's anonymous. And then, like, remember Silk Road back in the day? I don't know if that's too old for everybody yet.
Wasn't anonymous.
Hashtag free Ross. That's bullshit. Then the people saw Bitcoin. They're like, okay, you know, anonymous currency. And then the creators of Monero were like, no, that's called pseudonymous. And that means, you know, your IP is on it in some spots. And so then Monero was, to me, like the correct answer to, like, okay, well, this should be anonymous. A lot of people thought, okay, crypto, what's the point if it's not anonymous? And Monero, to me, from the community support, I thumbed through your Fluffy Pony podcast from last week. It was really good from the parts I listened to. Don't know him personally, but always interesting to hear him talk. And I think that from the community, the way that the community is driving it, the way that I've seen Monero evolve is exciting to me. I think that is how it should be. Like all these cryptos, we're so early. The UI experience for Monero is atrocious right now. The UI experience for most cryptos is atrocious. For Monero, especially so. That will be solved over time. It just will. I was in Anarchapulco recently, the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist libertarian gathering with crypto. I'm not a conference guy, Doug. I have a wife, I have a kid, I live quietly. I don't go to these things. The last one I went to, I think, was 2012 or something.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, and I saw some old friends there too. And there was an excellent debate and discussion with the people from Edge were there, and the multi-currency, the multi-asset wallet. And I'm like, why don't you guys have Monero? Like, everybody wants to carry Monero on their phone, I assume. You know, they want an untraceable private crypto for whatever. If you're doing dirt, if you're not, if you just don't want to tell anybody about whatever the transaction is, big or small, whatever. You just want your privacy. And then Edge, and then I also hit up, I think, Coinami, which is another good multi-asset wallet, and Jax. And I just kind of tweeted, you know, I just wake up one day, get on the old my internet soapbox, much smaller than your internet soapbox, and just say, hey guys, why don't anybody have Monero, mobile Monero? Everybody wants this, right? And all of them are like, oh, technical hurdles too big. You know, oh, I can just add shitcoin number 7. That's a copy of Bitcoin. That's a copy of Litecoin. That's a copy of this. That adds easily. And, you know, Monero is hard. it's a different algorithm. You know, this is different crypto. They built it from the ground up. So it's hard for me. So I won't do it. That'll end. Somebody will be the first. Somebody will win that race. And Monero will become much more easily usable in an IRL situation. I don't know if you've seen the new crypto banger from the N888, the Digital Gold, the new rap song. There's a great rap song about crypto where a guy says to convert your stash box to Monero, kind of encouraging the real life dirt doers, the weight movers, if you will, to use Monero instead of US dollars. And I think that you'll see that. I mean, Privacy Coin naturally lives on the darknet and naturally fuels darknet drug markets. No one likes to talk about it. Nobody likes to say that's how Bitcoin started. It was the underpinning of the original value of Bitcoin in 2010 and 11 was Silk Road. You could buy online drugs with it. An ounce of marijuana equals X number of Bitcoin. Thus, you have an economy, you have a trading platform, you have value to the Bitcoin. Now it can be used for other things. Online porn, drugs, and online gambling generally lead the charge in almost every new tech, especially payment processors. Your online poker, I don't know if you ever had an e-passport card back in the day or a net teller card.
I think I had e-passport. That I haven't heard that
10 years
in so many years, but you said it and it like triggered. I was like, we're gonna play some poker. It like triggered something inside of me. But yeah, I've heard of that.
So give e-passport a solid Google one day. It was made because online porn companies were just getting Visa closed, merchant closed, can't do business. E-passport decided to take the risk and be their payment processor. All of a sudden, you have the groundwork laid for a payment processor. When the online poker sites ran into the exact same problem, they went to e-passport for their fiat solution. And it had built a huge base. I think it's porn affiliate payments is how they started. And again, this is decade plus old, long dead tech. And but yeah, we blaze the trail, Doug. We're doing the good work by gambling online. It come right after porn, right after drugs and porn is us. That's, we're in good company.
The Lord's work for sure. So it's an interesting subject though to talk about. I saw Zuko on Twitter from Zcash tweeting about something where an article talked about people using Zcash as a way to participate in illegal markets or to buy and sell illegal goods. And sure. He tweeted something that was like, look, this is totally unproven. They have there's no evidence here of this. This is basically just like an attack on Zcash. Now, I didn't go through the article, and maybe he's totally right. I'm just gonna base this off assuming that he's right and the article unfairly said that. You're a privacy coin, right? You're supposed to be private. Why would that not be the preferred currency or one of the preferred currencies like Monero, like Pivx does it as well? Really good privacy like Verge. All of these excellent privacy coins. Why would you not have Zcash as one of those methods? It seemed like kind of a weird argument to me. Like, if you're a privacy coin, you got to embrace it, man. You got to be like, look, no one's going to know where it came from or where it went. And whatever they want to do with that, they're going to do with it. And that you can't be like, no, we're the privacy coin with ethics. You can't have both here.
Yeah. Dash, I think, takes the strongest stance against darknets that, again, claims to, for in the privacy coin space. I agree with you. I mean, it would be, I haven't poked, I'm due for a darknet poking. I haven't really seen what's going on in a few years there. And it's pretty well known that Monero, Zcash, and I don't really know if Dash is relevant anymore. If it is or isn't, your chat would probably tell you. I don't have your chat up, by the way, but it's pretty well known that privacy coins are used on the darknets. And I mean, it's so taboo. And the reason why your Zcash, mouthpiece would say that is because he doesn't want, United States law enforcement breaking down his door. And I mean, this is, we hate to say it, but this is like getting into the dictionary definition of fascism. I mean, this is we're not quite there yet, but like we're sure as hell knocking on the door when you're afraid to say things. You have to moderate yourself. I see you moderating yourself, quite often, and that's understandable. You don't want physical harm to come to you. You don't want financial loss. And I agree that Zcash is used for dirt, for darknet drug markets. I mean, this is voluntary trade between two people, and voluntary trade between two people, when it has to deal with a stigmatized substance like marijuana, which is getting more legal. Let's just say heroin. Let's just use a bad one. Somebody wants to mainline opiates right into their vein. Fucked up, right? Sounds fucked up. But I believe that another guy, if they want to do it, can do it. I mean, you're alive once, you get to run it once. Maybe he just maybe it's, I've never done it, but maybe there's something there that just the guy really wants. And I'm not big on poison to the vein, but maybe he is. And he wants to buy it from another guy that likes to manufacture vein poison. And I don't see anything wrong with those two people transacting business, but we're in a spot here where, like, I'll take shit for saying that. Just for saying that I think two people should be allowed to engage in voluntary anonymous trade, in stigmatized substances. I believe that. And I think these privacy coins, you hit the nail on the head. It's obvious. No one needs, why does it even need to be said? Darknet drug markets. You don't want to use Bitcoin. It's only pseudonymous. People, why was Monero made? Why was Zcash made? For max privacy. What's the first use case for max privacy in a crypto space? It's proven. It was darknet drug markets. That was like the first use case. That was like that's what started it, in essence. And they're both it seems like Monero is most well suited for that. Fluffy Pony won't want to say it, I'm sure. Did you ask him? I didn't get to that point.
He already lost all of his Monero on the boat, so he's probably not too concerned. No, I'm just. You know what? Actually, that would have been a good question to ask him. We didn't really go that direction too much. I should have asked him about that. That would have been a good
Last
one.
I checked, the darknets were dominated by Zcash, Monero, and then a little bit of Dash. And that makes Monero one of the very few currencies that's actually being used for what it's intended to. It has a use case. People need to buy it and sell it all the time because they're using it.
So a few things. For starters, I was joking about Verge. We had some people in the chat who are confused.
Obvious.
No, please don't buy Verge. Big announcement though got pushed back a day. We got a big Verge announcement. I'm thinking it might be the trifecta: Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. They might all say Verge is the future. I actually heard Bill Gates might be giving a speech on it. No. Anyway, don't buy Verge. Be careful there. Second off, here's the thing about privacy coins. I like how you talk about the utility of it, because that is actual real utility. Money that no one knows where it came from or who it's from, who it went to. That actually does provide value to people. And as far as like having to censor yourself as for what you feel on a lot of these topics, to be honest with you, I don't feel like that. And again, no one has burst through my door and pointed guns at me and my family. So that probably helps me not feel as much like that. But I don't feel like I can't say what I want. I think I can. I as long as it's not too crazy. Right. In general, I think that my viewpoints, I have a great platform to be able to say them. I think I can say what I want about people or the economy or politics or whatever, and I'm not really too afraid of anyone coming after me. But that's also because I'm not really involved in any gray markets. Everything that I do is clearly above board from like a government perspective, right? I'm not engaging in things that might land me in a more like ambiguous spot.
You don't need to be like a proponent of privacy or even freedom of speech if you're not doing something wrong. Like if you just think anybody else anywhere might have a legitimate need for privacy, and or like a Martin Luther King thing, where if you're like, the government just followed him around and tracked all of his comms and everything. Like, well, there's the modern day versions of that sure as shit need, privacy, and they sure as shit need encryption. And, you're like, I'm doing everything above board. And like, yeah, and no, and it's understandable. And, the gray market stuff, like back in the Seals with Clubs days, like that pushes the envelope, that furthers the conversation, just to, in a very narcissistic way, to liken it to Snowden. There you go. There's just a me and Snowden basically did the same thing. It was basically the same thing. And I mean, this guy sure as shit needs like his privacy, and sure as shit needs his, and things that he says, he can't really say what he wants now. I don't know. He did come out against that's a ridiculous tangent, actually, Doug. That is just an absolute insane tangent.
Let's bring it back a little more on topic.
Bring me back. Rein me in, please.
Well, like so for example, one thing that I see a lot of in the cryptocurrency community, and this is good and bad, I see a lot of people that hate governments, hate governments. Sure. And a lot of their reasons are legitimate, because governments do fucked up things. Sometimes they do. But that doesn't mean that we should be afraid of our governments entirely. It doesn't mean that they're all evil people just trying to ruin your life. I mean, there are a lot of bad people, and they do bad things. But I'm not nearly as anti-government as you're giving me faces here. I assume you want to jump in here. What are your thoughts on governments in general?
They're largely unneeded. Some things I think are needed. I lean mostly libertarian, but I think healthcare should be a human right. So I get kicked out of the libertarian, parties, I guess. And, and I'm not, and then the socialists won't come anywhere near me, because I do believe in, general anarcho-capitalism. But I don't think that what we think of as the government now, like just, I live out in the Caribbean, and when you drive down the street, if you have a broken taillight, you're not in fear that somebody might pull you over, write you a ticket, say you owe money, or really bad consequences will happen. So they threaten you by force if you have a broken taillight, if you're going 25 miles an hour over. When I was in the United States, before marijuana was legal, or I had a medical card, I would drive down the street for the World Series, and everybody on the first break of the 1500 no limit will run out to the parking lot to smoke weed. And it's been happening for
not just the 1500 no limit, 100% of tournaments that happen. That's part of the authentic poker experience.
Honestly, that was one of my favorite things of the World Series, especially in like the 06, 07, 08, really early days when we're just kind of meeting each other from online. Shocking we didn't meet, by the way. But and you'd go out, it'd break one, you'd smoke weed with some of your friends, and driving that car around America, I was always fearful. You're like, all right, are the taillights up to date? Do I look, am I white? Yes, great. Probably won't be pulled over for no reason. And, and so, 6 foot tall white male. Okay. That usually, car been pulled over by a cop, car reeked of marijuana, got my beautiful wife with me, okay. Here's the ticket, slow down, son. And, it's just a ridiculous landscape, and government is so intrusive that if you grow up in America and you watch it slowly creep into your life, then you almost think it's normal. You miss it. You come out to a place like the Caribbean, you're like, oh wait, the cops aren't trying to just randomly fuck with me. Like if I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm going a little, I'm not making a problem. I'm not affecting anybody else negatively. But this guy's going to come over and make me pay money under the threat of force. And you're like, well, that's kind of fucked.
Oh, internet. Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Doug. Oh, okay, now you're back. You like weren't moving for a minute, but now you're back.
Yeah, I think my internet just like went out for a second.
Like you got that fiber, you got that gigabit in Ethernet there.
I wish that was a thing here, man. Not in an area with it.
I was mid rant about how the government affects your life, Doug. About how like you said, oh, I don't really care much about it. But the government came in and took your damn job. They just said you can't gamble online. Why? Because reasons. And now if you can't do it, that was your whole livelihood. You're not a little bit salty on that? Just a little bit like, hey, that's fucked up.
Well, that was definitely fucked up. There's no doubt about that. I'm with you. And also, to be clear, I said the government does bad things, and I'm 100% for smaller government. It's weird when it comes to, when you think about smaller government, right? Everyone always says, "Oh yeah, I'd like smaller government," but then every year the government gets bigger. They get more power, the agencies grow, every single year spending goes up. It's like, how about someone who actually wants smaller government and then gets there and is like, "Oh yeah, let's go over smaller government." Because what happens is people get positions of power and then they're like, "Yeah, maybe I want bigger government. Maybe this isn't so bad after all."
It's a joke.
So,
Politics are a joke almost everywhere.
so that aspect, I'm right there with you. And yes, that some of the decisions that are made are completely ridiculous. I 100% agree. People should be able to do whatever they want with their body. I think it's tough though. I can kind of see why some of these laws exist, because on average people are extremely stupid. And so you have lots of people so your heroin example, right?
Yeah.
Which I'm not afraid to talk about. But your heroin example. Yeah. So the way that you said it was the way that a very rational, intelligent person would approach it, which was, I could put this poison into my veins to feel a certain way, or I could not, right? And you're like, well, maybe it's really fun, but it's poison. So I'm not going to do that. But that's because you're intelligent enough to approach it from a standpoint that, this is poison. People in rural areas, they might not be privy to information about how bad it is or the effects of it, or maybe they're just surrounded by it and then they end up doing it in a much less informed way, right? In a much less fair way to them, where they actually are aware of what they're doing. Well, now it's a little more of a gray area, because essentially people can make really bad decisions and be liable for them. And then the question should be, should the government protect you in some capacity? It's a totally fair argument to say, no, that's the way that a free market works here. If you want to do that, that's, your own prerogative. But I do understand wanting to try and protect people from things that actually harm them. But stuff like you can't smoke weed was just completely ridiculous. That was outrageous. It's not even harmful. I mean, it's weird just to think about the way that it's transitioned in the last, let's just say, my lifetime, right? I'm 29 years old. I remember being a kid and thinking marijuana is bad.
29 years old. Holy shit. I'm old. Sorry.
You think I was older?
I don't know. Yeah. It just seemed like came up online about the same time I did. I don't know.
Yeah. I just wasn't old enough
10
to
years,
drink.
10 years your senior.
It's all right. Crazy. Anyway, though, so it's like, you think about it like, marijuana. I think about when I was a kid, it had such a bad stigma. You don't want to be one of those potheads who ends up doing meth and dies. Do you want to die? Don't smoke weed. I remember going to Dare and being like, step one to like becoming a criminal, marijuana, the dark drug. Some scary music comes on, a gateway opens because it's the gateway drug. And that's you, that guy in the corner smoking crack. That could be you. Do you want to smoke crack? Then don't smoke marijuana. And I remember being like, okay, I'm not going to smoke marijuana. I don't want to smoke crack. I don't want to do meth. I'm never going to get near marijuana. Apparently the way it works is you take one puff of marijuana and then you're just shooting up. That's just the way that it worked, right? That's the way that you're told. I mean, that was completely insane. The fact that it was like that. Or things like shrooms. Why should shrooms not be legal? Right? Really? Realistic? Like, none of these things make any sense to me. The question I have, and I'm not totally settled either way, actually, is once it starts to harm people and people are not intelligent enough to be able to protect themselves, I start to feel like mixed emotions, because on one hand, the libertarian side of me is like, and I'm not libertarian. I share some viewpoints, some libertarian viewpoints. One side is like, you know what? That's the way life is. You're stupid. You're going to have to do stupid shit until you die, and then it's over. Okay, so try to not be stupid. But the other side of me is like, should we protect the people in our society who are less intelligent or less like fortunate to be in a scenario where they can learn? And I don't know. I think it gets a little more gray at that point.
It's, first of all, it's completely gray. I hate trying to sum up political leanings in one word. Hi, I'm this. This tells you everything that I think, this word. And like, no, like people are massive spectrum. Like it just changes across everything. And, yeah, and it's an interesting point. Do you help people? Yes, I think that you should help people in certain ways, but I don't think it necessarily has to come from the government. Just the government seems to have never done it right. The DARE program was a joke. That didn't help. Drug addicts in America, especially.
DARE was proven to increase drug use. You know that? You want to talk about a waste of money? They launched a campaign against drug use that increased drug use. I mean, my God.
I have a friend that I've been friends with since we were 2, and we still talk on a regular basis. We did the DARE program together back in Indianapolis, Indiana, in middle school and high school. And we still sometimes do our routine where it says, "Hi, I would like to buy drugs. I'm going to use just say no. No." And then, like, you have to use the next one, like, change the subject. Would you like to play basketball instead? And like, we did this, like, thinking like you can almost picture the government roundtable where all the government officials are saying, okay, we're going to do DARE program. Now, what are they going to do? They're going to learn these 5 steps on how to say no and how to deflect from doing drugs, and it'll work and people will do that. Of course, it's horribly misguided. The way that drug addicts are treated in America are generally, let's lock them in a cage. Now let's put them under massive duress in the criminal justice system. The way it's handled in enlightened countries, like some in Europe, are you get help for a drug addict and you make them not a drug addict anymore, which makes total fucking sense to me. And I look at what happens in the USA, and it's just, I mean, I always use a phrase, we were born into madness. And it's madness. Like, what's happening to drug addicts in the US is madness. And like, do they need the government to help them? I think that private citizens can do it better and cheaper and faster. I think that the way that the product for fixing drug addiction that the US government has put forth is just worse than atrocious, is torturous, is immoral. And I sure as shit don't trust them to protect our citizenry in other matters.
It's actually kind of sad that, these people need help essentially. And so you're like, you know what, you're a criminal, but like they need help. I 100% agree with you. I think
they stole the wallet, not because they're wallet stealers at their core, is because they are currently addicted to a highly addictive opiate or, methamphetamine or something, and they want more of it. And you can get them, other people can help them get them out of that mindset. That's not a permanent thing. And in other countries, it's shown that it's just, they get help and they get better and they learn skills, and and just in America, it's cage, lifetime of, generally the revolving door, process.
Michael, I just want to point out that this conversation started with, what are some other coins you like? What about maybe some privacy coins? And we've gone from there to like the justice system in America around drugs and what reform should look like. So let's just a little bit guide it right back.
I can bring it back to Ross Ulbricht and Silk Road and how that was a massively helpful thing for P2P drug exchange, private person-to-person exchange. It helped people a lot.
I think though that some of the stuff that was being allowed in there was simply unacceptable.
Like, the vast majority of trade was in a green leafy vegetation of weed.
Sure, but
that was the vast majority.
Yeah, but you can't ignore the other elements as well.
How are those other elements sold and bought today? In a much less safe manner. And like, are the other elements, are we going to guns or are we going to like harder drugs?
Well,
or is it something else?
Let's start with guns. I think illegally selling guns on the internet should be a crime. Do you not agree with that?
Okay. What about when you can 3D print one in a couple of years?
All right. Well,
is that a crime to have the file?
I don't think that that's a really good argument to just to compare to something else rather than addressing like the point sort of. Sure. Okay. Should 3D printing of guns be illegal? Probably as well. Is it enforceable? Probably not. At some point, I'm not up to date on 3D printing. But taking it back to the core problem here, should illegally selling drugs online, or let's even say just should selling drugs to people who are not supposed to be allowed to have drugs, possibly who are not cleared to have drugs, should selling guns online to people who are not approved to have guns be legal? And I don't think so. And then if it should be legal, or rather if it is illegal, should offering that service between people as the company allowing it, should that be okay? And I don't think so. I think that was wrong.
Okay. I mean, we're like, I don't think that, like, when something's unenforceable, I don't like to debate legality, because if it's unenforceable, that means it just happens. You have to deal with that issue of that it happens. Are guns sold to people that are not, quote, not supposed to have them? So, you know, you kind of get back to the government, where the government decides who could and couldn't have a gun. And if you don't have government approval, should you be able to have a gun? You know, personally, it's not, a gun is an idea right now. And it's, when 3D printing is almost there, by the way, for guns, it's still a few years off before it really happens. It's happening now, but it's highly specialized. It'll be relatively ubiquitous soonish. 10 years, 5 years, soonish. So in 5 or 10 years, this argument isn't going to matter, because if you want a gun, you can get one. If you have access to university level 3D printers and whatever, you can get one. And when it comes down to does something like a Silk Road, which facilitates the transaction of said gun, is that wrong? Is that bad? Criminals going to get a gun, right? They're just going to get it. You're not going to be able to, you can't stop it now, at least not in the US. Japan can stop it, by the way. They did. They have it's a ridiculously low murder rate. And then I know I saw you on your gun control rant, and I think a human should be allowed to have a gun if they want a gun. And there's a dangerous world out there. And, having the government decide who can and can't, I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that. So should a site be able to sell guns? Yes, I think. You're going to see something like Open Bazaar, which does also, just like the Zcash guy, does not want to be associated with illegal drug trade and worse. And Open Bazaar is something where you can now, through the magic of blockchain and decentralization, you can now sell whatever you want to whoever you want. Brilliant system. Very, very cool dev team also. And that is, almost a moot point now. You can do it. You can sell it. Are you going to go after everybody that does? U.S. will try. The U.S. will go after everybody that they can that does it.
A couple of things. For starters, I've thought a lot about the laws that aren't enforceable and to what capacity are they enforceable. And so I used to feel that if it's not enforceable, then it probably shouldn't be a law. But then I thought about it a little bit more, and I think that sets kind of a bad precedent just in general. For starters, let's just say, the worst crime you can possibly commit, murder, right? You can't always prove who murdered somebody or what happened to them, right? Sometimes people die, you don't know how, no one, and there's no way to prove it. And so it's not always enforceable to be able to penalize someone for murder. But you can't make murder legal. There has to be a strict penalty for killing people, right? That has to happen regardless of how effective or how enforceable that might be. And so, for example, on Silk Road, there were actually, you could purchase hits on people. You could purchase people going out there to kill people in the world, right? How on earth can you not take a stance against that? I think you have to.
So not really. So part of the government marketing against Ross and the Silk Road case was to fabricate a lot of things that didn't happen. So you would put that exact thought in your mind. Well, we can't let this happen because hitmen are getting hired. There's no hard evidence. There's no good evidence at all saying that a hitman was ever hired on Silk Road and ever committed anything, even started, nothing. There's just no, you may have heard from the news cycles, Dread Pirate Roberts had 2 people murdered. Well, he didn't. It was actually an elaborate government scheme. Two of the agents working on that case stole Bitcoins, and then they were later arrested. What actually happened on Silk Road was a lot of people bought weed. Is the big takeaway from there is that people that couldn't get weed due to ridiculous legislation in their local jurisdiction were able to safely acquire weed. Maybe they wanted to safely acquire MDMA or cocaine or heroin or pills, those lovely benzos and all of the different things to activate certain CB receptors in the brain that some people want to do. They could do it safely. They could acquire it safely. And it was a total, you know how heroin's bought in the Midwest? You go to Chicago, downtown Chicago, like south of where the White Sox play.
Where is it?
I was asking for a friend. That's how I found out. And you go to the south side, and it's a dangerous situation to acquire the heroin. So I hear. And I really never did heroin. I never bought it, so anything. But I've had friends that told crazy ass stories about how they get it. And it's ridiculous. And then to think about how the Silk Road would get it, where you would pay crypto and it would come discreetly packaged in the mail, that just takes out a whole element of danger from it. You know, maybe your path to recovery is safer. You know, maybe you hit rock bottom safely in your own house. I mean, you know, I don't know. It is certainly an ideological. We have determined our ideological difference, where it stands. This is good.
I do think so. I also think that it's one thing to kind of bait and switch people, or when people are operating in what is clearly a gray market, right? It's not really, there's no stance taken exactly. I think prosecuting people in those scenarios is terrible, because there's not even exact laws regarding what should and shouldn't happen, especially when it comes to a lot of tech stuff, where a lot of it is up to interpretation. I think in those instances, I have nothing but sympathy for people. But I think when you deliberately go out against the laws, whether you agree with them or not, and create an exchange for people to buy and sell illegal goods, where you're acting as the intermediary, knowing what you're doing, I don't feel as bad, because that person, you know, they're orchestrating the whole thing, understanding the risks that they're taking, right? So I don't know. I mean, should he? I mean, he's got life, right? He's life in prison.
It's a terrible situation. He's not looking to get out until he's very old.
I mean, that's also awful, and it also depends on what exactly happened on Silk Road. Maybe some of what I heard was based around rumors or just things that simply didn't happen. And if that's true, then my position obviously would change somewhat as well. You know, it's hard to be like, he should get X without knowing what he did, right? Like, I mean, I would prefer to know exactly what happened, but
he facilitated like voluntary trade between two parties. I mean, it was all, you know, he didn't sell it, he didn't stock it, he didn't market it or advertise it. He had a place to facilitate one guy wanting to sell something to another guy.
Yeah, but you're the marketplace there.
Sure.
It's not legal.
I mean, he knows what he's doing. Ross was this hardcore libertarian that, you know, truly believed in, you know, that somebody could sell something to somebody else if they want to, you know, even if it's highly stigmatized by, you know, the current government. I think what your government writes as law is often confused with morality. And you can look at a massive history of governments that their laws are just simply under. Like, what about North Korea now? Their normalcy is you have to salute the two pictures of the great leader and the whatever, and like that's their normal. Like, that's the law there. Like, you can't leave, otherwise we'll imprison your family. That's the law. Should you break the law? Like, what if you launched a service where people could break that law and sneak the fuck out of North Korea? I would call that incredibly ethical, to facilitate something to sneak out of North Korea, but it's against the law. And that would even be against China. To sneak them out into China would go against Chinese law too. You know, so you have two governments that I think have highly unethical laws. And, you know, that you find you many more examples. I can submit a paper worth of examples on current unethical laws, I believe. And there's and your history lesson will be filled with them. You know, 1940s Germany, a lot of laws, very, very unethical in my opinion.
It's tough because on one hand, it's should you follow the law, and then on the other hand, it's, well, what if those laws are inherently unfair or are not able to be changed? And so it's definitely a tough situation. My stance is just overall, I think that our laws in America are relatively fair. There are some super unfair ones all the time. I lost my job and had to move abroad. Still owed taxes when I won, which is completely absurd. Like, yeah, how about you leave the country? And by the way, we're still going to take 40%. Have fun though. It's like, all right, thanks guys. So there are laws that certainly should be changed and are unfair. But at least in a democratic society, I feel that if we don't follow the laws that we've agreed upon as a society by representing people, by electing people to represent us, then I feel like the system doesn't work, because systems should be about what the people, on average want, right? What the average viewpoint is.
It's
What's up?
bullshit. It's bullshit. It's not really a representative democracy anymore. Corporations fund lobbyists to change the laws in their favor. Why do you have the opiate crisis? Because a massive corp poured massive resources to overprescribe drugs, change laws. You have pain centers in Vegas, pain centers. And it's basically a cheap way to get a prescription for opiates. It's like the medical weed. I was a medical marijuana card holder when it was still a medical program. Or I guess it still is, but now it's full legal there. I have the card because I'm going to show my daughter many years from now and say, daughter, look at the absurdity of this. Right now you see in history museums the medicinal whiskey prescriptions. It's going to be looked back on like that. I mean, it's not a representative democracy. In theory, sure. The people don't like it, so they change it. You think the people want weed to be illegal in like 30 something states still? Hell no. Does it change? No, because they get pushed back on by
that's a terrible analogy. For starters, it was illegal in every state. There wasn't even medicinal marijuana until like 10 years ago or 15 years ago. And then the more liberal states realized that they wanted it, and they started to elect people that represented them, and then pushed it through.
And your current attorney general wants to reverse that.
Okay, well, I mean, there's a lot going on there too, but
sure.
I think weed is a good example of how what people want does get changed. People can make certain things important to them, or important enough to where they would want to go vote for someone based around it. And in a lot of these places, they're actually having referendums, a lot of these different states, on if it should just be legal or not, just to the citizens, and they vote and they approve it. I mean, that's just straight up people choosing what they want. How is that not fair? I mean, you think about, you look at weed, right? And you look generationally. Here's what's happening: the people who hate weed are dying, and that's something that's a really important point, I think, for cryptocurrency as well. You look at cryptocurrency. Young people love crypto. They love Bitcoin. They love cheap hot alts. I wish they didn't. They love all of this stuff. They love technology. They love digital. They love everything like that. Old people hate it, but old people will die. Sorry, guys, if you're old. I really appreciate you stopping by the podcast. No, but you know what I'm saying? Everyone dies, just old people a little quicker. And as that happens, change will happen. The viewpoint of the majority will be reflected. Now, the problem is when none of your candidates will take your position because the position is not large enough relative to other things that are going on. Like, for example, I think about poker. If there was someone who was campaigning on, we need to make poker legal here again.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. That's what sucks. What sucks is when your position's so small that nobody cares. Then you're just fucked.
I look at the entire political landscape as like a bought and paid for marketing mess. I think it's just atrocious. I don't think the average asshole really has any swing. You can go ahead, place your vote, see what happens. It's, you're just going to be you're going to be outbid by the latest corporate interest that thinks differently than you, or maybe you think the same as them. Maybe big weed becomes a thing, and then all of a sudden the dominoes will fall, and I mean,
that's going to happen. By the way, I'm not like disagreeing with a lot of your points. I do agree that lobbies control a lot of this, and that who you represent, you actually have a lot less choice than you think you do. And the person with more money wins like 97% of elections. So I also want to just point out that I agree with a lot of those things. I'm not just some government shill. Like, Doug owns USA coin. Actually, I do own a bunch of USA coin. But anyway, the main point I want to take away is that I'm overall a little more optimistic, I guess, on what people can actually get changed. However, there are a lot of things that the government does wrong and I dislike about the system that we have set up. So
how about you can't opt out? You can't opt out. You can't be like, you know what, you're right. You don't want me to play online poker. I'm going to go somewhere else. And they're like, oh, by the way, you can't opt out. You owe me money. I didn't help you. I didn't provide any safety nets that you're usually purchasing with those tax dollars. I didn't offer you anything, and you owe me money. And if you don't pay me, threat of force. Sounds like a you know what we call that? When I was growing up listening to rap music, we call that a West Coast jack move, is what that is. It's a West Coast jack move. That's right.
Today I learned.
Yep. Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg. I had the Chronic album when you were 9 years old. I was bumping that in an 86 Honda.
Yeah. I mean, what's the difference between you and me? All right. Look,
we dated reference, but it's good.
Let's get like vaguely back on topic.
Yeah.
Do you have any coins you like?
You know, I've been working on this. The coins that I like are it's like a totally, at this stage of the game, and it probably even sounds uninspired to say Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Monero, and Zcash. That probably sounds almost uninspiring because your listeners, I know what they want. You've already alluded to it many times. They want the next shitcoin superstar that's going to 100x. I don't have it for you. I'm not involved in that. I just think the ones that will be transactionally relevant in 10 or 20 years are the ones that probably will only, sorry guys, you're only going to swing like 10% in a day, maybe 30%. You know, I know that's not enough. That's not enough juice these days. You know, why don't you just go leverage yourself? Jump in the BitMEX casino. Just really 100x leverage. And then, you know, just really, really feel it. Finally feel alive again, Doug, when it moves big. But I've actually, there's this really cool project that I have been involved with that is a shitcoin extractor. And I mean, while I don't like these coins, I think that it was interesting to see the marketplace. Walleting services, dig.walleting services is an automated Bitcoin fork extraction service. Meaning if you held Bitcoin, like in December, Bitcoin Cash started the fork market. And now there's so many shitcoins that were forked from Bitcoin where they just copy the blockchain, change a few rules. I'm not kidding. This is the list that you can currently extract automatically. Bitcoin Diamond, Super Bitcoin. This is after Bitcoin Gold, by the way, and Bitcoin Cash. So assume that you already know about those. Bitcoin, get your Bitcoin Diamond, your Super Bitcoin, your Bitcoin X, okay, your Bitcore. You got to get your Bitcoin Atom, your Bitcoin Interest. I mean, and the list goes on and on. And you can automatically extract all these shit coins. And most people are doing it to sell for real crypto. For your Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ether, Monero, maybe Zcash. I mean, Zcash might even be too small now to say it. And that's where my head is. My head is in the core currencies I think will end up being something. People will build apps on Ethereum. It will scale. That's a great dev team. That's a super cohesive, nothing like how the Bitcoin Cash and regular Bitcoin split. Nothing like that. Ethereum is still, even though the ETH Classic guys did run off, the main boys, the heavy hitters, are all still on the ETH chain, the real Ethereum. And that's where my head's at. It's with those coins.
Simple enough.
I want to build things on them. I don't, and I'm not just, it's not just a financial game for me. I think that this changes the world. And I think, still looking for my next really big project, and it will be building something on one of those chains.
Well, I very much look forward to seeing what you come up with.
Yeah. Cool, Doug. Cool, Doug. Thank you. I've been flying a lot of drones recently. Just keep flying drones. It's too much fun. It's so much fun.
I have not flown a drone yet. Am I missing out?
Ever?
You
need to get this. The only thing to get for a beginner is a DJI Mavic. And this thing is this is just a camera drone. So this is for pictures, not so much for fun. I mean, well, it's fun. I mean, super fun. But now I'm like the addict. I need a bigger hit every time now. But this thing folds down, and finally they made a drone where you can totally just take it with you. It's got a cute little carrying case. I was carrying this backpack around for years with Phantom 2, but finally, very easy to fly camera drone that fits in your hand. Super amazing. And then when you get crazy, when that's not enough and you need a bigger hit, then you get a race drone. You get a Stingy. or, you know, you build your own. And this is meant to be flown FPV with goggles. So you sit here, can fly 75 miles an hour on a race drone where you strap in goggles, FPV goggles.
Wow, this is actually pretty sweet.
Yeah. You strap on your FPV goggles and you get the video feed right into your eyes. So it feels like you're flying. Like you sit right where that camera is, in essence. It's called first person view, FPV. And you fly. You are a pilot. You're sitting down. It's an extreme sport that can be done sitting down in a chair in a field somewhere.
That's actually amazing.
Totally addicted. Totally addicted.
Drones aren't really legal here in Nevada or in Las Vegas.
I am familiar. I raced when I was on probation. I know we don't have time for it all, but there's a whole host of hilarious stories. When I was on probation for the whole Seals with Clubs thing, I pled guilty to, I'm the only one that's ever charged with or convicted of the operating online poker something without a license. So that's what my crime was. It's only a misdemeanor now. So, you know, I'm not even a felon, so I'm not even that cool anymore. But I spent like a year and change in Vegas, and, you know, till 2016-ish, and end of 15 and 16. And I flew drones all over that place, and it became more and more hard to find a place that we could legally fly our drones. And more laws came in. Like, you have to label your drone with a number if it's more than X grams and whatnot. It's insanity, total insanity to me.
You can't be within 5 hours of the airstrip either, and that's like
5 miles. And that's everywhere.
And that's like the entire Las Vegas Valley. So good luck.
And you can't go out to Red Rock either and fly in a big old open area, because that's Bureau of Land Management land, and you can't fly there either. Well, yeah,
I contact some poker vloggers flying over there. I'll have to let them know. So many stories. When I was on probation, you have to have a job. I worked for Sorrel Mizzy's brother's drone store. Okay. I worked in a drone store. Like, I went there I worked every day in a drone store. And Crazy Mike was my boss. Crazy Mike, you know Crazy Mike? Mike Thorpe? You don't know Crazy Mike? Was he the guy who would always challenge people to heads up freeze outs?
Yes, man.
I remember that guy.
20, 50,000, 10,000 limit hold'em, heads up freeze outs. Then it became mixed games when he lost it all.
And then it became he left.
Correct. He was my boss, Doug. I worked for Sorrel Mizzy's brother's store with Crazy Mike as my boss. An entire sitcom could be produced. I could get you 4 seasons of a sitcom based on actual things that happen. This is no bullshit. This is, I'm a funny guy. I like to joke around, but this is totally serious. One time at a drone store, we had 8 locations at one point. I wasn't involved in the management, but I tech guy, I just play with drone, I fix shit, I help shit. And one time, Crazy Mike is yelling at me. If you know Crazy Mike at all, anybody that knows Mike, it's exactly how you think it would be. Crazy Mike as a boss and me working, it's exactly how you think it would be. He's screaming at me, he's screaming at other employees. These little 19-year-old, 22-year-old employees don't know what the fuck's going on. He's screaming at everybody one day. And he looks at me, and I'm always slacking off. You know, I come late, I take 2-hour lunch. I just, whatever. My girl Katrina and I would go off. We'd have a 2-hour sushi lunch. That's how I went to work. Whatever. I had to go to work. Small money, very small money being paid. And he's screaming at me. He loved to scream. He knew I had to be there for probation. He's screaming. He said, Micon, do something. Just do something. I'm just sitting there listening to him scream, vaping and shit. And he's like, do something. And so I just look at him. I'm done at this point. You know, I'm like used up. I can't deal with this guy screaming at me. I look at him straight face in front of other employees. I take a box off the shelf, an empty box. I open it. I fart in it. I farted in the box. I closed the box and I put it back. I did it all without laughing. My 2 employees that I'm always a showman. They bust out laughing. They're on the floor laughing. Mike says nothing. He had no idea that I had a move that high. I had a 6-level move in me. He had no idea. He was not thinking about that at all. I farted in the box. I closed the box. And I looked at him. I said, "What? You told me to do something."
Got him. Lesson learned. Do something more specific, I believe, is going to be in the future.
Scream, got to move the boxes, got to get the job. Do something.
How long you worked there for? Like a year?
I was on probation for about 10 months. I was a great probationer, by the way. I was amazing. I think it only lasted 10 months of probation, and I secured the job a few months before. So call it around a year, maybe a little more than a year. And probation was, oh man, it was amazing. I dreaded it because nobody wants to do it. Every month you go to your probation officer. My guy loved me because I'm just a regular human.
What's not to love, right? That makes sense.
I'm a non-drug addicted working. You have to fill out a thing. It just says, have you moved in the last month? No. Who are your roommate? Who lives with you? My wife, my kid. Has anything changed? Has anybody moved out or moved in the last month? No. Have you bought a new car in the last month? No. Is your license plate the same? Yes. Like, is your phone number the same? Yes. It was just the same shit every month. And then you have to present your paycheck. Now I'm getting like a small amount of money. This is the lowest amount I've ever worked for on an hourly basis. This is I don't know. You could not survive with a wife and a kid making what I was making. And I present him with the paycheck. And every month, he was an older guy. I don't think he really remembered every time. He looked at it and he goes, okay, you're making good money. Let's see the list. And I'm like, fuck, man, you think that's good money? We're fucked. Everybody's fucked. How is anybody living here?
People don't make money.
No.
The median income in America for a family is like, what, 35,000 or something?
You're fucked. You're fucked. You can't provide, just not like luxury shit. You can't provide reasonable shit. You can provide reasonable shit. You can get by.
The gap will widen too, especially as machine automation takes a lot of those jobs.
Can we go to universal basic income here and piss off some libertarians? Can we piss them off?
I think, Micon, normally we have a 2-hour limit on the pods. We've done about 2.5. So I think we're going to go ahead and call it a session here. Yeah. But is there anything, any last thing you want to say here? What you're up to lately or anything? You like the soapbox. One last ride.
No, I mean, I would say check out the walleting services thing and split your shit coins and take the free money. I think it's an important thing because it helps to put people on the ask on these shit coins. And I think that the current fork market, I think, is totally distracting from crypto and the greater ICO market too. And that's one way that you can personally profit if you've held coin for a while, if you've held Bitcoin for a while. You can personally profit and I think do a good thing by help to depress the prices of these total cheap copies that are, getting us away from building.
What a guy. His one thing he wanted to tell you was about how you could get some free money.
Yeah. I think you help the greater crypto market. You get free money yourself. It's a really cool system. It's just like most people that held Bitcoin didn't think, oh, I should extract my super Bitcoin. Oh, I'm going to download another 130 gig chain. I'm going to get $10 per coin. It's usually not enough money for them to worry about. But it's just a cool project that I've been involved with that, they're doing it automatically. Awesome.
Nice. All right, guys, that's going to do it here from us. I want to thank everybody for tuning in the chat. Lots of great comments. Appreciate you guys stopping by. If you are listening to this on the podcast, you could always tune in to the next one live at Doug Polk Podcast on YouTube. Next week, we're going to be joined by Jason Moe. Should be a fun one, a character from both poker and cryptocurrency. We've got a lot of stuff we want to talk about. Maybe some of the same subjects that we talked about here today. So I'll see you guys then, and thank you once again for joining for today's podcast. Peace.
Thanks.